Board of Education to order. Mr. Moody, can you please take roll call?
Sure, will do, Madam President. Board Member Jeff Bennett. Board Member Deirdre Brown. Board Member Elizabeth Callahan. Board President,
Here.
here. Board President Nubia Duval Wilson.
Here.
Board Member Regina Eckert. Board Member Bill Gifford. Board Member Bimal Kapadia. Here. Board Member Will Meyer. Here. Board Member Shana Sackett-Gable.
Here.
All right. we have a quorum.
Great, thanks. Just one quick thing. IT, can you check to see if Jeff is on the WebEx? No, he's not. Okay, just want to make sure. Okay, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Please take notice that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in the following manner. The written notice was sent from the office of the Secretary of the Board at 2. Oh, okay. That's fine. It's going to be one of those nights. 2:30 p.m. on January 3rd, 2025. That said notice was sent via email to Maplewood and South Orange Township clerks and the editors of the News Record, Star Ledger, Tappan Nisoma, and the Village Green. So before I motion to, actually, not going to do that yet. We have a performance.
Hello, everyone. I'm Nick Diaz, choir director at Columbia High School. These are the Excelsior Singers. This is our juniors and seniors, singing in a mixed, mostly a cappella chamber choir, doing sort of advanced level choral repertoire. Our first song is called The Road Home.
Tell me where is the road I can call my own, that I left, that I lost so long ago. All these years I have wandered, oh, when will I know? There's a way, there's a road that will lead me home. After wind, after rain, when the the dark is done, as I wake from a dream in the gold of day, through the air there's a calling from far away. There's a voice I can hear that will lead me home. Rise up, follow me, come away is the call, with the love in your heart as the only song. There is no such beauty as where you belong. Rise up, follow me, I will lead you home.
Finally, we will kick off our holiday season with Jingle Bells.
Hey, dashing through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh. O'er the fields we go, laughing all the way. Bells on bobtail ring, they're making spirits bright. What fun it is to ride and sing a sleighing song tonight. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride a one-horse open sleigh. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride a one-horse open sleigh.
Jingle, jingle, jingle bells. Jingle, jingle,
Jingle bells.
jingle, 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 jingle bells.
And soon Miss Fanny Bell was seated by my side. No choice was made to play. Jingle, 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 drifted back, and then we got upside. Hey, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Dashing through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh. O'er the fields we go, laughing all the way. Bells on bobtail ring, they're making spirits bright. What fun it is to ride and sing a sleighing song tonight.
Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh.
Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride. O'er the fields we go, o'er the fields we go. Jingle bells, oh, what fun it is to
Oh.
All right,
Jing-a-jing.
very lovely. If you can see me, I can see you. On the count of 3, 2, 1.
Okay, where are we? Um, It's so funny, like, there's no one here. Okay, so just a note, before we go to exec session, depending on how things go tonight with our public speaks signups, I will be making a motion to conduct the first of two public speaks tonight after our BOE student rep update when we return from our exec session. But that's if we have signups and I have to motion it and the board has to vote, so I could get voted down. But with that said, we've had another night tonight where we'll have two presentations, and I'm just sensitive to, our presentations are important, but I am also sensitive to that also delaying when we have our first public speaks, and we had lost some public speaks last month due to the late hour. So we'll see how that goes. So next, I'm going to make a motion to enter into executive session at 6:42 PM to discuss attorney-client matters, personnel, and HIB reporting. The length of the executive session is estimated to be 75 minutes, after which the public meeting of the board shall reconvene. May I have a second? Thank you, Board Member Callahan. All in favor? Great, let's go. Back in regular session. Hi, everyone. Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the board minutes from the October 30th, 2025 exec session and regular board meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Board Member Meyer. All in favor? Great, meeting minutes have been approved. Next, we will go to our BOE student rep update. Hi.
I'm gonna start off with announcements and congratulations for the school. Delia Bolden Elementary first grader William McNamee has been selected for the NJPAC Fall Exhibit for the second year in a row, an impressive honor earned through the Art Educators of New Jersey competition. His first grade landscape will be displayed alongside artwork from students across the state following last year's selection of his kindergarten circle piece. The community is invited to celebrate the young artists at the NJPAC Fall Exhibit reception on Sunday, December 7th in the Victoria Theater lobby. Students at Montrose Early Childhood Center took on an exciting task this month that resembled real-life elections, choosing names for the school's 2 giraffe mascots inspired by the building's beloved giraffe emblem. Each class shared creative ideas before voting their favorites, giving students a chance to practice real decision-making together. After all the votes were counted, the winning names, Peanut Butter and Jelly, were announced to lots of cheers. Many Maplewood and South Orange students, staff members, and community members came together on November 16th to perform Our Town at Columbia High School. The show also raised support for the Achieve Foundation student programs, tutoring, and classroom grants. The cast included CHS students and alumni, district educators, and local residents, creating a true community production. Great work to everyone who was involved. Columbia High School congratulates its boys cross country program for sweeping the varsity, junior varsity, and freshman divisions at the Essex County SEC Championships, along with the girls teams for earning top finishers of their own. The district commends all CHS runners and coaches for their consistent effort, strong results, and positive representation of the Maplewood and South Orange community. Delia Bolden Elementary teacher Miss Cavagnaro has been selected as one of only 50 educators nationwide for the 2026 NEA Foundation Global Learning Fellowship. This year-long program helps teachers build global skills through workshops, mentoring, and an international field study. Mrs. Cavagnaro is excited to represent SOMSD and hopes her experience inspires other teachers to explore similar opportunities.
Good evening. So we just want to discuss a few matters tonight. That includes facility maintenance and hearing student voices and administrative and district transparency with students. In between the topics, if anyone has any questions, feel free to butt in. So at the last meeting, I mentioned our goal to improve CHS facilities. And since then, we've been working very closely with Principal Sanchez, Superintendent Bing, and the CHS grounds maintenance staff to do so. And our focus, like I mentioned at the last meeting, has been to improve everyday aspects of Columbia High School, like the bathrooms and the water fountains that students interact with every day. Paying attention to what's in the now instead of losing ourselves in the future projects. And on this matter, we would like to also thank Mr. Bing and CHS's efforts to secure the NJ Waterworks grant. That's going to be huge in making these projects possible. That money goes a long way. So thank you. And, as we continue to make improvements to CHS facilities, we will continue to provide updates at these meetings. And so before I move on, does anyone have any comments or questions? Currently we are repainting some bathrooms, but other than that, great. So to continue, we also want to briefly discuss our plans for bettering student district communication, including greater accessibility to general feedback forms, and plans to include Board of Ed updates in student newsletters, and just an easier way for students to understand what happens at these meetings. So we plan, and we're going to work with student council to do so, on issuing student feedback forms via email and Canvas, and that's what we've been doing. I want to thank Principal Sanchez for making that possible, sending out emails periodically to do so, but we also want to spread this to social media, reaching more students with these forms. You know, Student Council has an Instagram account, getting those links out there. So it's really super easy for students to give us their feedback. And at the same time, simultaneously, we want to work with the Columbia newspaper, the Columbian, and begin publishing newsletters containing just a summarized version of these board meetings, so students, know what's going on, and that way their feedback is educated and the most efficient that it can be in making improvements. And the majority of these actions can be completed on the student end of things. So like I said, we're going to be working with student council and ourselves in making this possible. We just want to share our efforts to do so with the board.
Yeah. While I've been in DC, I have stayed closely connected to CHS through teachers, students, as well as the surveys Penn was talking about, which I encourage students to fill out if you're watching. But one update I'd like to share is that Penn and I have been working on an incentive system to encourage students to constantly wear their IDs. I've found that when students are barked at by teachers to wear their IDs, that doesn't always work. And I think that we're going to try a raffle system or a way to reward students for wearing their IDs when walking through the hallways. And we are also communicating with MMS and SOM's respective student councils to implement their concerns and try to communicate their concerns to the board as well. Because at the end of the day, we are the district's student representatives, and we want to make sure all those voices are heard. Yeah, those are my updates for today. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's our bit. Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of this can be done on the student end of things, us, student council, all of that. I hope by the next time we speak with y'all, the next board meeting, much of these goals will be accomplished, and we can probably announce our Board of Ed update newsletter and amongst other things. So hoping that happens. And before we hand it over back to the board, any last minute questions or comments on anything?
Yeah, I wanted to comment. Thank you. I love the idea of trying to come up with some type of incentive. EC met with Penn a couple weeks ago to talk about some of their ideas for what they want to do this year and some of the challenges with the IDs. So, and I know policy FFT discussed student IDs a little bit as well, which might be in the readout. But so I just think that's great that you're trying to think innovatively, differently about the situation, and I look forward to hearing more. And anyone else? Yeah, go on.
I just want to mention as well, so we had our quarterly board retreat last night, and one thing that we addressed is we're strengthening our governance manual and how we operate, is discussing ways in which we can make the best use of the two of you for sort of mutual benefit, in talking about, thinking about bringing you into some of our committee meetings, either when we have an issue come up that we think could really use a student voice, or when there's a thing on our agenda that you think could use a student voice, or just generally to kind of sit in at the beginning of one of our meetings to go through our agenda items and give your input. So I'd be curious to hear now or later on what your thoughts on that would be, and ways that you can kind of, really get deep into not just the monthly meetings, but also what we're doing throughout the month.
So I think that's a fantastic idea. We were actually just talking earlier about, we want to help. Our job is to help and voice the students. We only can do so much with not all the information. So being part of those meetings is huge. That tells us everything we need to know. It's like I said about making sure students are suggesting and giving feedback that's informed. So that way it's efficient and effective, because we don't want to be building projects in the future that end up clashing with something that we didn't know was there. So that would be a huge help. I know we were also discussing about providing more opportunities, less of an elected official position on student council, but more of assisting administrators with their jobs. So like an example of this would be like assisting the athletic director and learning about her job and how she works. And people who are interested in athletics in the future can have a position with her where they're like an assistant and a helper. And just bringing students into the frame that way, also, I think it streamlines work, and it makes sure that our administrators can stay focused on the big, large, most important topics. And it also provides a learning experience and gives a unique way for them to share their thoughts. So if you wanted to.
No, yeah, I absolutely love that idea. I think it's also a great way to get kids in the community involved and more engaged, especially with administration, and bridge that gap and offer solutions that can efficiently work within the school rather than telling administration to do something and then having it trickle down that way.
There? Oh,
I love the idea of the board update newsletter in the Columbian. I think I don't know that students know a lot of what goes on here. So I think that's a great way to advertise and also get feedback about what goes on here from students.
For sure. So yeah, that's it from us. So thank you very much. and
Thank you
have
so
a
Thank
good
you
night.
so much.
thank you. Okay, so we have some public speaks, not too many. We would be able to get through this and then start our presentations around 8. So I'm going to motion to move up the first session of public speaks. Do I have a second? Thank you, Board Member Eckert. All in favor? Thank you so much. I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4. But yeah, we have enough. Thanks. Okay, so I'm going to read this and then we'll get started. Thank you for coming in person, and currently no one is online, for coming to Public Speaks tonight. The South Orange Maplewood Board of Education values public involvement and respects you've taken the time to address the board at tonight's meeting. As this is the board's business meeting, a friendly reminder to please be respectful as we take into consideration your valuable input, which will inform future deliberations and work by the Board of Education and its committees. The board does have time limits by policy, and it will be enforcing those to enable as many people to speak as possible. Each individual will be given 3 minutes to speak. The first public comment period is usually limited to an hour with priority often given to the items related to the meeting agenda, and the second public comment period may be limited to 30 minutes. Please remember to say your full name and town where you reside. First, we have Rocio Lopez. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, I gotta get my computer because I'm not feeling that well. Rocio Lopez, President of SOMEA. So tonight I'm here to speak about the changes in the grading. Right now we have a floor grade new, I can't even call it policy because there is no board policy, as you know about it. So we have been directed to give students a 50 as the lowest grade as possible. So if a student had a 5, a 10, a 25, the grade will be changed for a 50. So all Columbia High School teachers have been directed to do that. And that is called for floor grades, so you know. So my concerns are different ones, and I want to share them with you. The first one is that teachers, should not be changing grades without a clear board policy. So if you want to have a floor grade, pass a board policy because, as you know, grades are legal documents. And for us changing grades, without a board policy, you're putting us in a bad situation. We have certificates, and we can lose certificates. And I can give you the case in Inglewood several years ago. Some teachers changed grades under the directive of the principal, and they were investigated, and they almost lost their certificate. So I just want this to be clear. If we're gonna make changes, let's do them appropriately, right? Let's just do things clear for everyone. And that will protect my members. Secondly, the way this works is Columbia High School got a directive about floor grades, and several days later, it looks like Maple Middle, like last week, got directives as well, which they didn't have until then. And then all of a sudden, we asked South Orange Middle, and they didn't get any directives about floor grades. So it looks like some schools have them, some others don't. Then it looks like also in Maple Middle had them inconsistent. So some years they have them, some years they don't. Then it looks like in South Orange Middle, last year, they only have floor grades for math assessments, where if the kids got less than a 50, they will put a 50, but the rest of the grades are the same. And in the comments, they will put the grade that they actually got. So again, this is not making my members feel comfortable at all. Like, we need clear policies for everything that we're doing in the future, because again, I don't want the Department of Education here, and I don't want, for us, our certificates are our lives. If we lose our certificates, we cannot teach. So I want to make that clear. So, but then, you know, this is all confusing, but then this is what I want to share. We have talked with some people in central office, and the rationale to have floor grades is to have students, you know, they had a difficult situation in their life and they need to overcome, you know, that situation. So if the kids don't have to low of the grade, you know, they will not be able to catch up in the future. So why are we having floor grades for the 4th marking period then? What are they catching up after? So we want the kids not to learn. Then another thing is, I know they change around 250 grades already, and around 90 teachers have to change grades. So that's talking that, in my understanding, a lot of kids had single digits of 250 grades that were changed. So I am all aware about giving an M to students, and I want to talk about this. An M is a medical. So when you give a medical to the kids,
Rocio, you know you're at time,
when
right?
you give a medical to the kids, you don't count that marking period, and it's fair because the kid was sick. But now the kids that have medical, they got a 50, so they lost 10 points. My understanding is they're going to fix it. So my 2 cents, in the past, we had a contract that the administrators did with the students that needed help, and they told them, if you keep maintaining a decent grade and you go to class, so we don't have absenteeism, we will let you, you know, we will waive and withdraw that bad grade of that marking period. So that's my advice and my 2 cents, but please help my members, because we have the right to have, you know, legal stuff for sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Rocio. Next, we have Lori Martin.
Lori Martling, Somaya representative, English teacher at Columbia High School since 2006. I'm here to discuss the recent directive Columbia High School teachers received from administration to personally change our grades to a 50 for any student who earned less than a 50, regardless of circumstance, including whether or not the student actually attended class or completed any assignments. And if we did not do so, we were told that we would face discipline repeatedly. While I understand and believe in providing students with incentives to apply themselves to improving over the course of the year, such as providing incompletes or medical grades for students with extenuating circumstances, or perhaps trusting teachers to be equitable at the year end in recognizing steady improvement by a student, I do not believe that instituting a school-wide floor grade for each quarter will achieve this aim. Rather, this policy, along with the recent changes to the attendance policy by administration over the last couple of years, has encouraged such students to offer less effort. Under this new policy, a student who earns a 70 for Q1 and Q2, which is highly achievable across Columbia High School with minimum effort, can then not attend school and/or not complete any assignments for quarters 3 and 4 and earn academic credit for the year. More specifically, providing a floor grade for Q3 and Q4 does not incentivize students because it disregards the fact that typically the more important and difficult learning occurs in the second half of the year, and there's nothing to incentivize in quarter 4. The year has ended. Further, such a policy is not one of equity, it's equal, and that does not equal equity, as it is harmful to the students who are struggling and barely earn above a 50. The frustrating message now becomes, why bother trying when I can sit back, do nothing, and earn a 50? There's also the question of how such a policy promotes grit and perseverance, the staff-selected goal for Columbia High School this year, evidencing the staff's overall concern that rigor has been severely lacking at the high school. But perhaps most disturbing is the fact that this year's program of studies, created by our principal with oversight by central office, continues to provide that a D-, a passing grade, is the equivalent of 0.5. Look at page 12 of the program of studies. So if I'm a parent or a student, I would use that publication to now argue that my 50 equates to a D-, and therefore I receive credit for having done nothing an entire year. Combined with the lack of academic consequence for tardies and T20s, it is disingenuous for this district to certify to the state and institutions that these students have mastered the curriculum sufficient to receive credit. Instead, administration needs to implement real interventions rather than fudging its data. A rose by any other name, including a floor grade, still reeks of fraud. The board needs to conduct an audit of Columbia High School's attendance and grading policies before it's forced to do so by the Department of Education to the harm of the district's reputation, which will impact high, medium, and low-performing students. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now have Michael. Thank you.
And so again, Michael Tedeschi, I'm a parent. I originally came here to discuss a busing issue that we were having. In the process of preparing for this meeting, our busing issue, thanks to the intervention of Superintendent Bing, is in the process of being resolved. So I wanted to thank him for intervening, and we're very appreciative of your efforts in this. Pardon me? Absolutely, absolutely. I felt like I needed to come to the Board of Education meeting regardless, because I felt like you needed to be aware of sort of the issues that we were facing and the pervasive issue or the other issues that I think are behind this, and looking at a long-term solution rather than the short-term solution that Jason has done for us. This happens every year. It usually sorts itself out in the first month. It didn't this year. The issue was much worse. The communications were pretty bad. The explanations were horrible. Our bus times continue to change 3, I think 4 times, continuing to get earlier and earlier, no explanation. We were told to check Power School and then one day, and then the next day they were implemented. The route begins at 6:55. Last year was 7:15. This is for a 8:53 or a 7:53 start and 8:03 start. Short route, 11 stops. Kids get to school 20 to 30 minutes early, and they sit in the hallway or classroom supervised by a staff person that really should be preparing for the day of educating our children rather than supervising our children before school starts. Many parents opted to drive their kids to school, putting more cars on the road. Those that didn't miss sleep, breakfast, doesn't foster a good learning environment. The reason for these changes we came to know was because some of our, the later bus was after dropping our kids off, going to pick up kids in Newstead and busing them in Maplewood Middle School. So they created an equity issue for our kids. It's not equitable or reliable. I realize this is complicated. I realize there are budget constraints. I realize we've got outsourced busing. I'm very aware of how complicated it is to manage the budget, manage the III, all the other projects of our priorities of our district. I'm by no means an expert, but I think there does need to be long-term solutions here to correct these issues. I'm suggesting several solutions. Take it into consideration, take it for what it's worth. I'm a strong supporter of the integration initiative. I believe that it's important. I believe it's important for our kids. I believe diversity in anything, school, work, everything is important, and it brings, it fosters diverse ideas in a better learning environment and productive environment. I don't think it's being executed correctly. I think that we don't have the infrastructure to set up the way that it currently exists with the busing. We should look at potential changes. I think increased proximity, consider parental choice in the III, evaluate potentially the 2-zone model, allow for wait lists at neighborhood schools where you can switch kids with the same demographic profile as they're exiting the school. I think certainly bringing the busing issue in-house is certainly so. I think that's something that you're planning on doing. I think hiring a good administrator who knows what they're doing is important. I understand that reverting each of the middle schools back to their neighborhood schools. I realize I'm running over. Give me 1 second.
No worries.
Rather than having them be a part of the II, I think that's a solution that really should be looked at. I would love for my kid to walk to school. I think others in Maplewood would as well. If that doesn't affect the diversity numbers, I think that's something that should really be considered. And I think reallocating pre-K buses back to the K through 5 busing is a solution. I think ultimately we need to take a smart look
30
at
seconds.
the III and figure out how we can integrate, but still respect that our neighborhoods, our 2 towns can't support the infrastructure of this busing. And I think that the busing is being exacerbated, or III has led to this, and we need to make some smart decisions about how to tweak it, not eliminate it. I'm firmly supportive, but tweak
Thank you
it.
so much.
Thank you.
Final public speaks for the session, Natalie Naran. Thank you. Natalia, sorry. I was doing it from memory.
No, it's okay. Natalia Naranjo, South Mountain parent to a second and fourth grader. Hi, my name is Natalia Naranjo. I originally came here, similar to Michael, to speak about an issue we had with our bus, the South Mountain Green Bus 137. I'm happy to report, that as of yesterday, a solution has been found. And while I'm really grateful that the issue has been resolved, I would be remiss if I didn't address some remaining concerns. I'm still troubled that it took nearly 3 months to fix something that families flagged as unworkable, and that, quite frankly, the administration should have been able to identify as unworkable from the start. Our route was paired and tiered in a way that was logistically impossible. SMS starts at 7:53/8:03, and it was paired with Maplewood Middle, which starts at 8:20. Families raised concerns repeatedly, yet it took close to 3 months to correct an operational problem that directly affects students' ability to get to school on time, or in our experience, at a reasonable time relative to the start of school. During the process of working with Superintendent Bing to find a solution to our bus problem, I learned more about the district's plans to save costs, bringing routing in home, changing vendors, moving away from the GPS systems. These are smart, reasonable measures, and I want to acknowledge and express my support for them. As part of these savings, another practical step this district could take into account is reallocating pre-K buses to K through 5 routes. Pre-K placements are not tied to the integration plan, and while K through 5 students are, which is why the busing distance was reduced to 1.25 miles. Aligning resources in this way could reduce costs, relieve pressure on tiered routes. For example, I also just recently learned of a Montrose to Seth Boyden tiered route that has a similar issue as ours, where one group either arrives too early or the other group arrives late, and therefore maximizing the impact of each route. Even with cost-saving measures in place, reliable transportation remains critical, not just for students to arrive on time, but for the success of the integration plan. Adjusting the integration plan alone will not solve transportation issues. Many students placed through the III attend their closest school and still qualify for busing. Unless busing is completely eliminated for students within the 1.25-mile radius, which I do not recommend, these issues will persist. The district will also still need to continue busing students who have been placed through the integration plan over the last 4 years. At the same time, cost savings alone will not fix the transportation system. Routes must be operationally reliable. During this period, when our bus was scheduled so aggressively early, ridership dropped dramatically. One morning after dropping off my kids, a staff member told me that our bus only had 4 students on that morning. That means that the district and our community are paying for services that aren't being used. This highlights a misuse of resources and underscores how logistical mismanaging can compromise efficient use of funds. Right now, unreliable transportation is what is undermining trust in the integration plan, not the concept of integration itself. Families are frustrated because buses are late or way too early in our case, tiered in ways that can't possibly work, and communication is inconsistent. That frustration understandably gets misdirected towards the III. Personally, my family lives so close to Marshall that we can hear the bell from our home and even pick up the Wi-Fi. We are placed at South Mountain, which is our 3rd closest school, and we're not mad about it. In fact, we are very, very, very happy South Mountain family. However, we recognize that we have the privilege of being able to drive our children to school when the transportation system falters. But make no mistake, doing so creates stress and is not sustainable year-round. I'm almost done. Many families placed across the town do not have that flexibility, and I worry about their experience. If the III is to succeed, and I believe this community wants it to, transportation cannot remain its weakest link. Cost-saving measures are necessary and appreciated, but they must be paired with reliable, operationally sound routes. Families deserve buses that work so that integration is supported rather than undermined. And thank you. I know how hard everybody really works, and I appreciate it. So it's not a dig at anyone. It's more so this is the information we have. How do we just make this better for everybody? Thank you.
Thank you so much. And that concludes Public Speaks. Okay, so now we'll move on to Superintendent Update. Are you going to do the presentation? Yeah.
Carol, we'll do presentations first. You want to step up first? Kathy, you can go first.
Good evening, everyone. Okay. So if you recall, we had done a special education experience survey back in the spring, and I thought it was important to not only present those results, but the coordinating action plan. So that's what I'd like to do tonight. Next slide. I am very glad that I brought my laptop because I would not be able to read that. It was a last minute decision, but in any case, so the survey questions that we asked of our parents, we wanted to see how they would rate the CST process in general from start to finish. If they were satisfied that all of their questions and concerns had been addressed at the most recent IEP meeting, did they, how would they rate rather a sense of inclusion with respect to climate and culture in the district? How would they rate the related services, so speech, occupational therapy, physical therapy, counseling, and behavioral intervention support? How would they rate the academic and social emotional progress of their child? And if they, considering this is one of our big initiatives, if their student has a paraprofessional, are they aware and have a clear understanding of the reason and the goals for that support, as well as our efforts to foster independence and fade that support over time? We asked if outside of report cards and IEP progress reports, if they felt that they received enough information related to their child's progress from their teacher. And finally, we asked if they felt that there was a need for an executive functioning class or program at the middle schools and CHS. Next slide. The survey was shared through a PowerSchool correspondence to all special education parents and also shared by CPAC to all of their members. Unfortunately, the results or the respondents weren't as many as we would have liked, only 91 respondents out of our almost 1,500 special education students. Well, 1,500 just special education students, less families, but still only 91 respondents. But in any case, we'll take all the feedback we can get. So there were 5 preschool respondents, 46 elementary, 15 middle school, 20 high school, 1 in the 18 to 21 realm, and 4 that were in out-of-district placements. Next slide. And I have to say that all of the results are over 50% in the positive, so I think that is a definite win. Of course, we also want to talk about the feedback and the action items that come out of it as well, but I was happy to see over 50% in pretty much every category, I believe. So 58% were satisfied or highly satisfied with the CST process in general. They felt that case managers were a definite strength. They were describing, amazing, excellent, fantastic, responsive, knowledgeable, all good adjectives. Their kindness and caring, knowledge of special education teachers and classroom teachers were definitely highlighted. Many noted the program's positive impact with their child making significant progress. One was quoted as saying that they're miles ahead of where they were after receiving the necessary supports. So that's fantastic. Some areas of concern that were noted. A lot of people talked about communication being a strength, but just as many talked about it being, a deficit and cited a lack of follow-up and follow-through, responsiveness from the staff, and they felt that they needed more feedback on their child's progress. They did talk rather about the CST process being slow, lengthy, a lot of information needed, and initiating the referral process being difficult to navigate. And they also talked about high turnover and staff vacancies. Next slide. 66% felt satisfied that their questions and concerns were addressed at the most recent IEP meeting. And while a lot of these areas of concern aren't specific to questions, I still wanted to summarize them for everyone to see. Specific concerns involved accommodations not always being followed by teachers and improper modification assessments and, some issues in inclusion classes. Issues include a lack of teacher attendance at IEP meetings, the meetings feeling rushed, and unfortunately, that's just indicative of a tight schedule and teachers needing to get back to their classes. Unfortunately, these IEP meetings do happen during the school day, so that does play a part that we can't always avoid, and a lack of clarity on available supports. In general, parents did worry that overloaded case managers have caseloads between 50, 60, sometimes 65. Overloaded case managers cannot truly know the students, albeit they try, of course, but the parents felt that could lead to children falling through the cracks. Several responses highlighted a perceived failure to recognize a child's unique profile, including challenging students to their potential and offering programs options that are too late. And I think we can all identify with the feeling, you've always wanted XYZ program, and then your child gets beyond the need for that program, and all of a sudden that program now exists. So that can happen, of course. Next slide. 62% were highly satisfied or satisfied with the sense of inclusion with respect to culture and climate. Inclusion classrooms were highlighted, co-teaching model, providing a seamless support and environment for a supportive environment for all students. I love the fact that it was noted many times that students largely feel accepted, integrated, and unstigmatized by their classification, feeling a strong sense of community and acceptance from their peers. That made my heart very happy. And teachers and support staff are highly commended for their deep care, inclusive mindsets, and expertise. Areas of concern really included expanding that sense of inclusion, services, and classrooms. Suggestions included increased classroom support staff, better PD on our professional development on neurodivergent behaviors, a reduction in inclusion class sizes, and ensuring that staff are just well-versed in dealing with special education students and working with them. Special education was noted, of course, needing to be integrated into the curriculum, and more so providing our students with opportunities to read about folks that are, successful with disabilities and, literature surrounding that. And there was a call for better messaging to the wider school community with regard to supporting neurodivergent children's needs, and particularly during those transitions from building to building. Next slide. 62% were satisfied or highly satisfied with our related services. The positives that were noted: the therapists, social workers, teachers, specialists, excellent, skillful, caring, professional. They have positive relationships with the students, willing to attend sessions, or the students are willing to attend sessions and benefit from the learned strategies. The services are available, consistent, and included support for absences and high-level classes. Physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech services were noted as being very highly successful. A major concern included a lack of communication outside of yearly IEP meetings specific to related services, inconsistent service delivery, especially for social skills and speech, and a high therapist turnover. Some felt counseling and behavior intervention were in great need of improvement as well. Next slide. 66% were satisfied or highly satisfied with their child's academic progress. Some of the highlights were significant academic growth, with some reaching grade level and improving stamina. Educators were praised for their dedication, communication, and nurturing students' love for subjects, and especially math. General support staff, caring teachers were noted as strengths. Students growing in self-advocacy, which makes me, again, really, really happy. Recognizing their abilities, becoming more independent in their work, and showing greater confidence. Some areas of concern that were noted were a perceived decreased support for students as they enter CHS. The consistent application of IEP accommodations and modifications, especially in math again, and specific support for executive function and transitions from building to building. Several responses noted mixed messaging about their child's progress and feeling like they were getting different messages from different teachers that didn't seem too consistent. Next slide. 61% were satisfied or highly satisfied with their child's social emotional progress. The positives were they felt that their students had more friends, enjoyed peer interaction to a greater degree, felt included, exhibiting stronger confidence and reduced anxiety, increased maturity, demonstrating self-advocacy and polite conduct, which is always good. Children having greater resilience, improved frustration tolerance, and better recognition of their own limits and regulating their emotions. So areas of concern and struggles were reported in the transition to high school, resulting in school refusal in some cases. Parents expressed concern that some classroom environments may be too rigid and are detrimental to their child's emotional well-being, leading to potential school avoidance. There was a perceived lack of awareness among the staff with the needs of students with disabilities and how these disabilities manifest emotionally and the appropriate ways to respond and support them, including a greater sense of cultural competence. Next slide. I was really happy to see that 70% expressed a clear understanding of the reason and goals for paraprofessional support, as well as the plan for fading that support and fostering independence. Of course, there were 30% that felt the opposite, and some of those concerns were a lack of clarity on the goals, the specific support strategies and daily duties. And some were unaware of para changes that had happened with regard to the actual person, not that they didn't know whether their child had a para. Issues included an inconsistent presence, an inability or perceived inability to help their student, inadequate training, and a possibility that a one-to-one professional was somehow compensating for a lacking in the classroom. Parents desired meetings with paras for feedback, tips, and understanding coverage when a para is absent. That's a tricky one because paraprofessionals aren't certificated employees. They are, of course, subcontracted in this case. And, we don't always feel that it's appropriate. We would like the certificated teachers to relay information and be, really the shepherds of information to our parents. Requests for clear support and plans, goals, and progress reports, and just, again, being aware of that para change were noted as areas of concern. Next slide. 58% felt that they received information related to their child's progress from their teachers outside of progress reports, so that's good news. And an overwhelming, and I can't say that I'm surprised by this result, an overwhelming 82% felt that there was a need for executive functioning classes or programs, especially at the middle and high school. Not surprised by that in the least. Okay, so some of the action items that we have. Communication. That, is always something that we're striving to do better with. I feel that we will always be doing that. We are using PowerSchool Messenger more and more for communication and announcements, and I feel that that is working. Bless you. A better enforcement of the 48 business hour response time. That is a board policy, and making sure that that's enforced at all levels. On-time progress reports and more thorough Q&A before the release of progress reports to parents. And that's something that I feel that we've come a long way with. This survey was given, I believe, in March. And that was before we made some changes that I feel I've gotten a lot of feedback that they're working out really well. And then as far as communication, as we know, there's some recent legislation and DOE guidelines for additional annual IEP meeting notice requirements. That doesn't go into effect until July 2026, but we are starting to implement that and giving professional development to the child study team members to start, and the DOE's guidance was to start that this year, work out the kinks, you feel good about it by July 2026. So I feel like that is all working toward better communication. Professional development. Responses indicated a greater need for understanding and meeting the needs of students with disabilities, more so outside of their special education classes and programs. To that end, we have enhanced collaboration with CNI to ensure professional development opportunities are geared toward providing an inclusive environment for all of our students. I'm really excited that we began this year with an EdCamp model, which gives our staff the opportunity to shine delivering professional development to their colleagues in their area of expertise. I feel like we always learn better from our colleagues rather than having an unknown outside presenter come in and talk at us. So we basically took the professional development surveys that we had done last year, and with the help of CNI, we're trying to get our own staff to present to their colleagues. And they're really excited about it. We're really excited about it. We've gotten wonderful feedback from it. The sessions have largely focused on how to best implement the co-teaching model, how to navigate frontline. I need some of that training myself, to be perfectly honest. Always need that. Best practices in writing goals and objectives, how to manage difficult behaviors, and how best to work with classified students in special area classes. Next slide. Behavior intervention and support. And we're hearing this across the board from parents, from administrators, from teachers. definite voiced concern regarding classroom management, response to behavior or misbehavior, consequences that are more punitive and, or rather, consequences that right now seem more punitive and less restorative when we need to see the opposite. Last spring, our MTSS teams were trained in the Collaborative Proactive Solutions, or CPS, model of behavior management to be used as a part of the INDRS process. And it's basically a broader district initiative with the organization Lives in the Balance and the methodologies of Dr. Ross Green. It looks at student misbehavior as unsolved problems and engages the learners in the solutions, which I feel and research shows is the best way to affect true change, involving, rather than us as adults imposing solutions on students, getting them to collaboratively work with us to figure out what is going to meet their needs better. Our district administrative team, I'm super excited about this. Our district administrative team meetings through December are dedicated to a book study of Dr. Ross Green's book, Lost in School. So we are reading a few chapters, coming together, working together. I think that that is a fantastic thing for this district administrative team to do. And we're really getting a lot out of it. And actually, at our December meeting, Kim Hopkins, who is our CPS trainer, is going to join our DAT meeting and go over everything, answer more questions, give feedback. She's actually been meeting with our MTSS teams and, going over real-time coaching sessions, that they're doing with their kids. They're recording them with parent permission, of course, and they're going over them with Kim and getting real feedback. So that's all moving in the right direction. And the next step in that training, we trained our MTSS teams and our administrators. The next step in the training is to more formally train teachers in the CPS model and to provide on-site coaching in their classrooms. And I specifically dedicated money within my budget in professional development to that end, and I'm really excited about it. But all of that being said, it's a monumental shift in thinking to involve children in the collaborative problem-solving approach. It's a multi-year initiative. We're not going to do it right away. It's going to take a lot of effort from all angles and a lot of training. And I'm so happy that we're embarking upon that and already seeing some positive changes. Next slide. Teacher and related service provider vacancies. That, is a concern across the state, across the nation, but one that, we are aware of, and we continue to post immediately, of course, for all vacancies as soon as we're aware. We're expanding our relationship with local universities, offering internship opportunities. I feel like that's probably the best pipeline to get new staff to want to join us and, get them excited to be a part of our district. Expanding our contracts with outside agencies when tenure track candidates can't be found. And really, I think not delaying the process. We always want to offer tenure track positions and have our district employees hired, of course. But I think that we need to be quicker when those opportunities are not found and those candidates aren't found. We can't sit and wait too long because then our kids are suffering. So reaching out to agencies quicker to ensure candidates are found if need be. And executive functioning, overwhelming response that need exists for a class or program dedicated to executive functioning at the middle and high school. And research really shows that executive functioning skills can't be taught and shouldn't be taught in a vacuum. For students, for the best student success. It really needs to be infused. I'm looking to last year at the CPAC Resource Fair, I met Stephanie Cannon through CPAC, and she has Cannon Educational Consulting. She provides a lot of professional development to mostly New York City schools, but I have been working with her to, we've actually been playing phone tag. We talked right before this meeting and she was going into the train and I was coming here and we have a call scheduled for tomorrow, but we're definitely going to be tapping into her for professional development and coaching to infuse these strategies into every class with consistency rather than having it be a separate class that's isolated. Next slide. And our paraprofessionals. While the overwhelming majority understood the reasons for the assignment of a paraprofessional, there were still some parents who weren't clear. So that means we need to do a better job. The CST have been directed to continue to review the paraprofessional criteria and fading forms with teachers and parents at least twice a year, if not more. Teachers are charged with developing goals and objectives surrounding the assignment of paraprofessionals, helping to collect that data with the help of the behaviorists and BCBAs, and reporting thorough progress, through the progress reports. We're proud of the work we've done to ensure the appropriate level of support while fostering independence in our students, and we're going to continue that. Our EBR program, while that was not specifically addressed in this survey, we are taking a close look at EBR this year. Our goal this year is to better define the criteria by which students gain entrance and, quote unquote, are graduated from the program. We're collaborating with the EBR teachers monthly, we started this month, to decide upon the instruments and resources used so that we can be more consistent across the district. We met and decided that there are lots of resources, some used, some not used, scattered throughout the district. We're actually having all of those resources delivered to central office. In our next meeting, we are going to roll up our sleeves and go through everything. So we're excited. A multisensory approach to teaching literacy needs to be expanded through, beyond the EBR program itself, in order to, reach our pull-out resource teachers, our in-class resource support settings, and again, make it, there's likely always going to be the need for pull-out EBR services, but the more that it can be infused into our, teachers' toolkits and pull-out resource and in-class resource support, the less we need to pull our students out. So professional development is continuing in that respect as well. And that's another multi-year initiative, but we're starting with a survey of all the pull-out resource and in-class resource teachers in order to gain an understanding of their current level of expertise and training, their temperature on getting more training, overwhelming response that everyone wants more training. So we're excited about that as well. And I think that's the end of my action items. Yes, thank you for your support. And do we have any questions? I was really excited about the results. I think they were overwhelmingly positive.
Thank you so much for that very thorough review and presentation with all of the data. Do we have questions? Questions, comments? Yeah, go on, Deirdre, and then Will.
All right. Hi. Thank you so much. I really appreciated this, and I agree the results are promising. I just had I just wanted to say I'm glad that you're looking at the evidence-based reading and seeing how we can be more consistent across the schools. So I'm glad that's a focus now. Did you notice any, I know you mentioned executive functioning, but in terms of other feedback, was there distinct feedback that you saw at the CHS or middle school level versus the elementary school level? I know it's hard because it's such a small sample size, but.
Right. It was definitely more so at middle and high school, but I think across the board. I think that, when you come from, I think the reason for seeing it more in middle school and in high school, you're coming from an elementary school. It's mostly a self-contained environment, somewhat departmentalized, but you have one teacher that you're responsible to in most cases. And then you go to middle school and you have 3, 4, 5 teachers you're responsible for. I think it's a matter of everyone's expectations aligning so that it's easier for students to succeed. I think students just naturally feel that frustration as they matriculate into middle school and then again into high school. The expectations and rigor become more, and you also have more people to please.
I'm sorry, I think I didn't word my question well, but I meant in terms of other feedback besides executive functioning feedback, was there anything particular that kind of you noticed with regard to the high school population or the middle school population?
I would say a focus on classroom management coming from a more restorative place than a punitive place. Involving our students in those solutions, which is perfect for the collaborative and proactive solutions model that we're implementing. That was definitely a theme. And accommodations and modifications being administered and followed with consistency and fidelity across the board. That was another big one in middle school and high school particularly.
So thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to discuss this in the Special Services Committee meeting. It is great to see the amount of feedback and the amount of positive feedback. in here. The one thing that stood out to me in looking at it again tonight is, and we talk about this in a lot of the surveys we do, is just it is hard to get a lot of people to fill out surveys. And, you know, I talked to many special education parents in my job in here, and they're folks who really are excited to share their feedback. So I'm wondering, and this is sort of a question / comment, things that we can do to try to increase that engagement, whether it's sort of, you know, sending something to someone after, you know, 2 weeks after they've had an IEP meeting where they probably have a lot of opinions, or at some point just to increase that number so we can feel confident that we're getting feedback that is from, you know, the body as a whole.
Yeah, I'm thinking that maybe, and I don't know if this is best in paper form or, perhaps a part of the documentation that goes, maybe it can even be created through Frontline and sent along with the IEP that goes home after an IEP meeting, a satisfaction survey. Maybe folks would be more apt to fill it out in the moment right after they've left an IEP meeting, as you said, and that, that feedback will be fresh in their minds. Be a link to a survey to reach out to the Frontline people and see if they can wrangle that up for me.
I don't know if that, you know, makes it more or less statistically correct, but it's something to think about.
It's worth a try.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would echo. I had a similar kind of comment question around just how to improve responses, but I do want to just back up to say that I do think it's worth noting that this is something that we had kind of long desired to do. And I think the special education community was hungry, like Will said, to provide feedback. And so I do just want to, commend the department for getting it off the ground and being able to present the results. And yeah, I do look forward to figuring out and identifying ways to make sure that we can increase the response rate over time. I do think thinking about that from the frontline perspective, similarly, I'm not an expert in frontline. So wondering if there is a way to use that when feedback is fresh. And then also considering other avenues of, maybe conferences and things like that when parents are more readily available and kind of in that feedback zone. Just one thing that I thought of too was just being cautious about over it. So like, is it at the annual meeting versus, so like, we're not getting multiple feedbacks from a single family in a year. So just identifying like what would be the most applicable or the easiest one to kind of garner feedback from on a cadence that would make sense. But yeah, I think it was really helpful to present this to the community and link it with the next steps. So thank you.
Exciting. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Okay, next is our SSDF. Oh, yes.
That's right.
Okay. Let's see. Our next presentation will be from Dr. Wabel and Mr. Paul Morgan.
Won't be a presentation without these glasses.
That's true.
Greetings all. We're here to present the School Safety Data System Report. New Jersey State dictates that all school districts report all incidents of violence and vandalism, as well as HIB, twice a year. That would be period 1 and period 2. We're presenting period 2 from 2004, 2005, as well as the final results for the end of the school year.
Oh, you have to say next slide when your mom's cheated.
Oh, next slide. Next slide.
One more.
One more, please. Good. Okay, so here we have the explanation of SSDS terms. We're going to go down to where it says violence includes assault, fight, kidnapping, robbery, extortion, sexual assault, contact, threats, criminal threat as well. And then on the vandalism side is arson, damage to property, false alarm, false public alarm. Something to note with the vandalism, vandalism is only reported if there's a responsible party. So if there's something you see on the wall and there's no person or no one can be identified, that isn't reported. Next slide.
And one more. Okay, so the first set of data we're going to look at is data for the entire school year. So this is the data comparatively across the schools. Next slide. And this is also across the schools, but this adds each category that we reported under. I do want to note that there was an under-reporting of substance abuse that we called the state. We have to report it when we under-report was an accident oversight, and an over-report for weapons at the elementary school. So both of these reflected in the graphs are changed, just so you know, okay? And we just let the state know that. Also, they don't all add up because sometimes one incident has multiple things. So the math will not be accurate all the time. Next slide. And one more. So we are noticing a general trend at the high school of reduced violence, which is great. We saw middle school is not an overall trend, but it did trend down last year. We did see a trend up at the elementary school. Actually, most of the incidents went down, but the assaults went up. We're noticing some behavior challenges that we're struggling with our younger students. Immediately halfway through the year when we recognize this trend, because our thing is we're not going to wait until we report it to do something about it. As Ms. Jessamaria pointed out, we brought in collaborative proactive solutions. Halfway through the year, both her and Ms. Bodner felt that was a great program. We also added to our multi-tiered supports this year, as well as started working with individual schools to support them. So just so you know. Next slide. This is a new slide. So we are reporting on all of the trainings that we've done. So pretty proud of this. There were 104 staff programs around school climate and culture last year. Those are individual trainings, sustained trainings, all kinds, examples. For the students, they are more long-term programs, so they are smaller because they're curriculum over time. And we don't do period 1, period 2 because they are, again, over time. So we report them in period 1. So our HIB curriculum is reported once, but they might see those lessons throughout the year. But some great information there. And we front load everything, which is why period 1 is heavier on both sides. Next slide. Okay, now we're going into period 2, which starts in January 25 and goes to June. This again is a look at all of the data across the schools in all the separate categories. Next slide. And the same for the schools' total categories, total violence in each school. Next slide. This is broken down into the grade bands. Again, we talked about what we're seeing at the elementary school, which is why we implemented all of those changes last year. And there's more that Paul will go into. Next slide. These are the tree maps. They're so pretty. You're going to see this is everyone, period 2. So all of the schools, and just shows you kind of where our concerns are, where the violence and vandalism are. And so this gives you a picture, and then we're going to go into each grade band. Next slide. Oh, this is a comparison of all 3 grade bands. Next slide. This is CHS. Next slide. This is the middle school. Next slide. And the elementary school. Next slide. Okay, this is the HIB alleged and confirmed. One of the things we do after we look at this data, we meet with the climate the anti-bullying specialist 3 times a year. So we look at this data when we're meeting. We also ask the climate teams to review their own data and come up with solutions. Hipster is our program for HIBs. It's really great because you can identify hotspots. Is the lunchroom a hotspot? Is the classroom a hotspot? And then we come up with plans to address the certain needs in those schools. So those are going on right now. And they're working with their climate teams to address the areas that they're seeing in their school. I also want to note that a big focus for us starting in January is going to be just communication with families over phones, which we talked about last time I was here, because we do see an increase in bullying because of the phones, starting in grade 4, really. Next slide. This is the alleged versus confirmed in the entire district. Alleged being red and confirmed being gray. It is about a 30-ish percentage of HIBs are founded. Next slide. Okay, so this year we saw some trends. We saw the high school have a gradual decrease in overall incidences in 5 years. Middle school, we saw a decrease last year. The elementary schools, as we talked about, we saw an increase in one particular area, but decrease in other areas. We saw confirmed and alleged HIBs over the last year have decreased. I do think that's partly because some of the work we're putting into curriculum. And period two, which I found really interesting, saw an increase in HIBs. So spring always has a little bit more, but spring had a little more last year than the year before. So that's something we're looking at. And next slide. I just wanted to remind everyone that we are working with the CASEL framework. So one of the things we're working with for our students in all grades is really working on these 5 skills: self-awareness, self-management, responsible decision-making, relationship skills, and social awareness. As you can imagine, all of these are interrelated when you're talking about violence and vandalism. And so really bringing our children into how am I feeling? What are my goals? And then how do I manage how I'm feeling when I'm really frustrated? Or how do I manage when I'm really afraid or excited? And then taking that responsible decision-making and also those relationship skills and social awareness, right? How is my friend feeling when I say a mean thing to them? What does that look like in high school and what does that look like now? And so the curriculum we're working with is really to support that. And we're looking at possibly even looking at expanding curriculum K-5 for September. And I think you're it.
Okay, next slide, please. So we've identified some areas to support, and I'll read through those. The additional supports for tracking and accounting for incidents is needed, as you saw. Specific attention will be paid to threat assessment and record keeping, primarily to avoid the over and under reporting, or sometimes, like as Dr. Wable mentioned, we did miss some and have to call the state. Additional supports for students who engage in behavior which require removal. And we noticed that the cell phones are still contributing to bullying, again, as Dr. Wable reported. That's students have access to each other 24 hours a day, and we just need to address that. Some of the plan supports and the SSD tracking, the Director of School and Community Safety will support and review all submissions to ensure accuracy. Again, that would be my job. I will go through them as they're being submitted, just to review and speak with the secretaries, the administrators, whoever's submitting, and just review, make sure that they're correct, and then upload those. Training all schools and Power School, and additional training for SSDS to administrators as well as secretaries.
Oh, no, just next slide twice.
Okay, next slide. Oh, and next slide. I'm going too fast. Okay, so our plan supports for students. All students pre-K to 12 will receive lessons specifically on one district, one response to bullying. We're also exploring resources, new resources such as, what did we speak about? The character strong, and different resources to support parents as well. Multi-tiered systems of support will increase and be more available. We're going to set expectations for all in the freshman academy, and we're going to stress a phone-free educational experience. Next slide, please. Additional plan supports for students. Updated kindergarten schedule to include additional outdoor play and purposeful play. This will support social emotional learning, help practice self-regulation, problem solving, and build confidence in our pre-K through 5, build independence and executive functioning. Next slide, please. Support for teachers and administrators. This is good stuff. New tiered SEL program resources will be sent to all pre-K 5 teachers to support social and emotional development. Also, coaching is planned for schools to identify areas in need of support around discipline practices. Something of note yesterday was that the district administrative meeting, we started just reviewing some of the support plans for the administrators. We used some of the scenarios provided by the NJDOE to train teachers and administrators yesterday. We just went through some of the scenarios they provide, and they will help us learn what to upload, what not to upload, what to report, what not to report, and how to do that properly. As you saw, we did make a couple of missteps last year, and we're going to correct that now. Next slide, please. Plan support for families. Parent seminars around cell phone use as well as digital citizenship are planned this year. Updated code of conduct, which shares the tiered responses. We're also looking at programs to support parents and continued skill building at home with their students. You're up. Next slide.
Okay. Any questions?
Oh, that's it? We're done.
That's it.
Oh, I went fast.
Thank you so much. Questions? Regina? And then, yep.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. It's nice to see you sitting in that side.
It's nice to be here.
So I just wanted to confirm the over-reporting you said was the weapons at elementary school. Okay, so that was going to be one of my questions. And then looking at the trends over time, elementary school is all lumped together. Do you know off the top of your head, are you seeing the same trends? Because if you look at the breakdown, there were 3 schools, honestly, that caught my eye. Over time, are you seeing those similar trends?
So I would say in some, but not others.
Okay.
So we saw part of what we're seeing at the elementary school is threat assessments, a new process, right, since 2022, and some of the schools are reporting it differently. So Mr. Morgan and I are putting out just a clarification on that, right? What are we reporting and what are we not? Because not everything, if a student says, I'm going to kill you in the middle of a soccer game and they keep playing, that's different than an actual threat.
Yeah.
And the state goes into that, right? So we're providing that. So I think that's some of the difference. And I think, depending on the program at the school, sometimes we're seeing some more students with some additional challenges. And so, our coaching model is really focusing in. Some of our coaching is going to be for all of those spaces, and some of that coaching is going to really focus in on areas of need.
Okay. That was going to be my follow-up question of, obviously understanding there is kind of a blanket plan of action, but for those identified there, is there anything targeted?
Yep.
Which it sounds like there is. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for the very thorough presentation. With regard to the numbers that were, I guess I want to understand the numbers for the violence in the elementary school. It looks like there was some uptick, if not the same amount. Is that right? That there was some or there was none at all?
There was definitely some uptick.
Okay.
And then there was also some just difference in the threat assessment reporting.
Okay. When we're talking about violence, What is that looking like? What qualifies as that for an elementary school incident?
Sure. It is intentionally harming someone else. We tend to report things that are fairly significant. So if someone gets hurt and has to go to the nurse because they're injured or something like that, something like that is, and not, there's a lot of the little ones, there's unintentional. I ran my friend over because I was just so excited to see them, so that kind of thing is not reported.
Also, simple threat is also, so if you make a simple threat, that can also go into.
And you
That can, right, yeah. So if you make a simple threat, what they call as a simple threat, that also goes into the violence category.
Okay, so just and not in any way to downplay it, but it's not all switchblades in the back of the school building, right?
No.
It's just to understand what is actually coming into this category. And my other, it's part B, actually, second question, was going to just squeeze right in. In looking at the HIBs and the reported versus confirmed, there were, I think at least it was one school that had a significant number of alleged that were not confirmed. Are there any conclusions that could be drawn from that as far as were these ones that were referred by teachers versus parents versus others, or a reason for that?
So I think there's a few things. I have to look at the data more carefully, but for me, what happens when you're investigating HIB is it doesn't mean something didn't happen, and this is for all of them, right? It may have been that it was a conflict with students, and sometimes conflicts go into an HIB system, and then we talk to the students, address the issue, but it didn't rise to that threshold. Also those areas where you saw the high was also schools for ages where there's cell phones, and so we're trying to manage that. We're also bringing in, specifically at the middle school, more community building that can decrease that over time. And so we're working with students and teachers to help that. But as for who reported it, I don't have that, but I'm happy to get that. But I think what we're looking at is just that general age group really is working on learning how to have social interactions that are positive, and we're just really trying to support that for those students.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for this presentation. It was great. And I love the 5-year trends. So that's, thank you for that. I was just curious. So you were talking about the threat assessment. So from your thoughts, are you thinking that the few schools that kind of had a significantly higher number of incidents, do you think they're being more stringent in how they're applying it? Or do you think the other schools are not being less stringent? Like, do you think there's actually been significantly more actual incidents? Or do you not know?
I think probably both.
Okay.
I would say from what I know, because between Paul and I, we see every threat assessment.
Yeah.
And it seems to be both.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I noticed that one of the kind of supports going forward focused on kindergarten.
Mhm.
So were a number of those incidents in kindergarten?
Some. We recognized also that our kindergarten did not have, so because kindergarten's that base year that every student in our school goes to, right? Pre-K is a base year, but there's not as many students there. So we recognize that preschool is very play-based, right? And students really learn a lot from play, especially social emotional learning. And then kindergarten became more academic, but didn't incorporate as much of that play base. And so looking at that, kindergarten is a real age that you should be learning those social emotional skills. And by not including so much play, we were taking that away. And so Dr. Correa and Ms. Bodner really worked with a great team of kindergarten teachers and administrators last year, and really looked at what do we need to add back in so that our kindergarten, and not necessarily that kindergarten was the area of concern, but that's where it starts, right? And so we wanted to do that. So they did a beautiful job of doing that and really bridging pre-K and K. So they're visiting each other's schools and they're really talking and articulating to really identify how we can really support the kids, which I think, we also have to remember these elementary students, these were COVID babies, right? And that has some implication on, that they were home and there was a little bit less socialization. So we want to really ramp that up and support them.
Okay, great. That's it then. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Well done. Just want to give a quick update. Unfortunately, we lost a member of the SOMSD family. Do want to call out action item 4878A, Peter Romaine. He's a former buildings and grounds supervisor, passed away on November 15th. Our family offers their family condolences, and also Peter's friends, because I know he had many in this district. He was well respected. So we just wanted to call out that action item. He will be missed. Second, we do want to talk about district goals update. We'll be updating our goals on the website progressively. You'll see the next update within the next 2 weeks. Strategic planning keeps moving along. I don't want to steal board president's thunder. If she's going to mention strategic planning, you are. So I'm going to just let it go. You'll get an update from our board president on that, but we're making some really good progress. Student achievement, administration of a universal math screener by October 2025 has been completed, utilizing iReady and IXL Math in grades 1 through 11. That was done October 6th to the 10th. Grades 2nd to 11th, IXL ELA, and K to 1 iReady was done in mid-September, so the universal screeners have been completed. Identifying tier 2 and 3 students for the New Jersey multiple tiered system of support by November. Identification of tier 2 and 3 have been given to school NJTSS teams to prepare for their teachers to work on small group intervention and one-to-one. We also supplied tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 professional development last week. We are currently using Linkit to now manage our multi-tiered system of support. We're launching that. Training will be ongoing. So we look forward to having a systematic approach to our tiered system of support. We believe that the multi-tiered system of support will have a major impact on our special services. Will have a major impact also on achievement as students progressively go into middle school and high school. We also have talked about and completed the formation of our New Jersey multi-tiered system of support teams at every school. Our next step is developing a district-wide multi-tiered system of support team. They're in the process of forming that. As noted previously, we will be using our Linkit platform to manage our multi-tiered system of support. We're using their intervention manager, and training will continue. CHS Freshman Academy, preliminary data showing a decrease in failure rates as compared to last year for marking period 1. First Student Wellness Community Day was on October 31st. And also teachers did professional development around goals and team building. And they also started the Eyes on the Fries program, which, as noted, is an executive functioning professional development for kids. And we've already had 3 meetings with Rutgers University and the University of North Carolina around data collection around our cell phone band K to 10. We've discussed this at the committee level. We've discussed this in SLT in regards to whether or not doing the study at the high school or middle school level. As you all know, we implemented a freshman academy this year for the first time. So we're a little worried about that bias. So I think we're leaning towards the middle school level at this point. We have another meeting with Rutgers start of next week. Special services. I am not going to repeat everything that Kathleen just said, but every action item were part of her goals. So big thanks for that presentation. District also, as Kathleen noted, and I do want to emphasize, we are in the year 2 with our partnership with Ross Green. And our district administrative team is also reading his book, The Lost Child. So we're excited about that. Monthly meetings have been scheduled, as Kathleen noted, to really systemize our EBR approach in regards to resources and also what instruction looks. So what we did find was, depending on the building you're in, instruction may be different. So we want to systemize that program. I also want to note that we have just completed, in regards to HR, data-informed staff retention and staff satisfaction index was completed. We'll be sharing that with the public within the next week. We did share it at the personnel level, committee level. I think we got a lot of good data that we're looking forward to sharing, and also some opportunities for some action items around those as well. Also, I want to give a huge shout out for everyone who participated on November 6th and 7th for our SNAP emergency food drive, whether it was community members, board members, teachers, administrators, parents, organizations, you name it, they turned out, and we were able to support a lot of families on Friday. So big thank you. We will continue that work throughout the year, especially now with the holidays coming up. We intend on starting food pantries at every school. We currently have a food pantry at our high school. We want to make sure we have those at every school as well. So we'll be conducting that work over the next couple months. I do also want to shout out, and I know our board reps mentioned it, but I want to shout out again, Jess, our Spanish teacher for over 20 years. Her selection to this group was not only amongst our country. Where are you, Jess? Oh, was not only amongst our country. It's a global. It's global. It includes Europe and Japan, and it's only 50 folks. So I can't say enough in regards to this accomplishment. So big thanks. We look forward to you participating in this program. We look forward to you bringing stuff back as you go through it. We're excited for you. And that is all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Superintendent Bing. And Mr. Moody, your update?
Yes, thank you. There's a couple of things that I want to cover here today. Really, starting with our RITSR project development timeline, and then moving on into some commentary about our healthcare transition, which we're moving full steam ahead with. And then a brief note about what Superintendent Bing mentioned, which is our board goals as they pertain to the business office. So I'll start with the RITSR timeline. As I've been giving the updates on our project plan here, we have this project timeline to refer to, which clearly has site investigation that goes from September through mid-November. That's around where we are right now. To add a little bit more clarity, we had the project kickoff meetings. We did the architects and teams completed the existing conditions and outbound surveys. The tree analysis by the arborist was completed. The report is forthcoming. So once we get out of that site investigation, area of our timeline, we then move into this design development, right? So we've also started action in the design and development phase, which is a preliminary assessment report that's prepared, and it's scheduled for completion in early December. This involves soil sampling, it involves laboratory analysis, and then once the sampling is complete and the analysis is complete within the next week, we'll have more information that will guide the design. So stormwater subsurface investigation also underway. The sampling is complete, and the analysis is to be completed within the next week. Then there's the stormwater management. It's underway. And essentially what happens here for this process is we're doing boring holes into the field and actually coming up with samples that then are sent off to the laboratories to do analysis. And then they provide insights as to what will inform the drainage system. So this is the place that we are in the design development phase, and we're looking to get that analysis presented back to us within the week. We are on track, and in fact, the field design and documentation of existing conditions is still in progress, but is scheduled to be completed over the next week. We did, in fact, our architectural firm, that is Spiesel, did in fact submit to the Department of Education the project application on November 17th. And so just as a reminder, that application goes in to the DOE, and then we also continue to conduct business to bring forth the results of the design and site analysis to the Maplewood Planning Board. That is scheduled to actually take place at the January meeting of the Maplewood Planning Board. And then once we hear back from them, the Department of Education's project application can be rendered and then sent back our way. That DOE project application is where they tell us just how much in the way of debt service aid would be possible on the project. So we are on schedule, and we are within this sort of exiting the site investigation and also straddling the design development phases. We then, in the spring, move on to permitting, construction documents, bidding, and awarding of contracts, all with a goal towards breaking ground and engaging in construction in the summer of '26, beginning around June. So that's just a high-level overview of where we are in our RITSER project timeline. Thank you for that. On to the next topic. I want to just give a bit of commentary on where we are in our healthcare transition. We really workshopped this transition for many months, engaging with many aspects of the community, with our constituencies here in the district, with district leadership, with the SEMEA leadership, with ASCA leadership, with teachers. And we decided to move forward, as folks know, in our last meeting. So with that, we're shooting towards a Jan 1, 2026 transition of our medical coverage. That move will be to the administration by Meritain Health, which is an Aetna company, and it provides access to extensive Aetna Choice POS2 network. The move secures a robust nationwide network foundation, and prescription benefits will be managed by the CVS Caremark system. We will be utilizing a passive enrollment structure because we did have the benefit of engaging in open enrollment with our existing state health plan, and as such, we were able to dig into that data and then transfer that data to our new system. That said, that passive enrollment underway, the fact is that any changes that are required by staff can be taken on during our open enrollment. Our open enrollment deadline will extend, actually begins from November 21st and extends out through the early days of December. So we will be rolling this out. We will be having meetings at each school with our Aetna Health and Meritain support folks. We will be providing our broker support lines and email systems, which will be responded to within a 24-hour window. We also have a designated contact in the administration building that will be administering the rollout and the open enrollment process. So we're well on our way with move to the transitioning our healthcare. The fact is, our dates for having meetings with staff and teachers across the district begin Friday, November 21st, tomorrow, and we'll be extending out through the middle of the first week of December. So there is some flexibility there, but we're looking to have resources available for all staff and supervisors and really all covered folks in our district. So that's a brief update on our healthcare plan. And finally, as I mentioned before, our superintendent spoke on the fact that we are, across the district, really monitoring closely our goals, our district and board goals, and the extent to which we are implementing our solutions and all of the work consistent with our goals. So I'm just going to read out our major goal for the business office, which is a goal of budget, budget optimization, that is. So by the end of 25-26 school year, our district will strengthen its long-term financial stability by developing and implementing a multi-year financial plan. The plan will systematically seek to avert any structural deficit and increase maintenance and capital reserves where necessary and possible. That's a multi-year process, by the way, ensuring that our district's financial health and capacity for future investments in education is well achieved. And I'll say here that, our efforts to reach that board goal have been ongoing, and they extend from our budget process from the prior year. As folks may remember, the effort really was to enhance collaboration, to enhance communication, and to really make it much more of a process that involved all of our stakeholder groups and constituencies around the district. So that means communication, education of our principals and supervisors, and invitation of those folks back into the budget process, giving them access to our systems, and really working with them to monitor their budgets, to set their budgets properly, and then monitor them over the course of the time, as well as working with the other constituencies within the district, our senior leadership, our board. We're looking to enhance our reporting to our board members as well, not just the statutory reports that we are required to present, but even refining and enhancing call center reporting and things of that nature. We're moving on those things consistent with our goals. And then we're looking to innovate. I think what's clear is that, we took on the challenge of our healthcare plan optimization head on, and we're moving forward with those plans. And those are huge efforts, and we really have to take them on individually and look to innovate and then implement. So that's what we're doing as it pertains to meeting that budget goal. And we've put forth a budget calendar, and we're moving forward with each milestone on that calendar. So these are the things that we're doing to really bring our board goals to life and our district goals, and kind of manage the transition to a more enhanced administration of our budget. So that's where we are on that, and done. Thank you.
Thank you. Just one request. As you mentioned, there were a number of within a week deadlines that, with respect to RITSER and where we're at, it'd be great if you could send, or have Spiesel send to you, and then you could send to the board once we hit those marks, like when things are
Sure,
coming
yeah.
through. That would be nice. We don't have FOT until, I think the second week of December. So just having those
Yeah,
ongoing
in
updates would
fact,
be nice.
yeah, those reports are due to come back around that first and second week.
Mhm.
So what I'll do is, as they come in,
Mhm.
we'll be monitoring them, and then we'll make the board aware.
Yeah.
We want to be mindful of how we're tracking towards this timeline. We don't see any major obstacles.
Knock on
We see
wood.
that we see these things coming, but listen, we know how things happen.
Mhm.
So we will be certain to update the board. Absolutely.
Go
Yep.
on. Yep.
Nubia?
Oh.
Nubia?
Hi, Jeff. Yes. Would you like to say something? And then Regina will go. Yeah.
Hi, I have been here, even though I've had my camera off and not feeling so well. Ms. Moody, I was wondering if you could talk a bit about some of the planning you've done around and the analysis you've done around transportation costs, because that has been a discussion in FFT recently.
Sure, absolutely. What we've done in that way, and as you know, during our FFT meeting, we've kind of formed a committee across the senior leadership team and with our transportation group to really analyze our transportation data in detail. We were looking at bus routes, we're looking at costs. It's a dual challenge because we're faced with the day-to-day challenge of really, addressing issues that come up by the minute, some of which were discussed in public speaks, but we have interdependent tiered bus routes. An early bus route will have ramifications on a secondary bus route. So essentially, we have the dual challenge of both managing in real time and then digging into prospective data. And so we've been engaged in that process, going out to our partner, Sussex Regional, and looking at how we can optimize new route cost structure to begin in January. So we have data around that. We're refining our projections around fiscal year 26 transportation projected cost spend. We're also carving up the data into how we can come up with costs associated with busing that's beneath the 2-mile limit at 1.25, the impact of III student-placed students in terms of that transportation cost. I believe that there are misconceptions, that folks have around the drivers of our transportation costs. And so we're looking down into the details there to really compile that data so we can, workshop it in the Finance and Facilities and Technology meeting, as well as through our constituencies here on the senior leadership team, and have that inform our decision-making. So absolutely, we're moving forward with all of those efforts and bringing that data to bear in our Finance Committee meetings. Did
Yes.
you have a question?
Sorry, I'm going to go back to Ritzer just really quickly.
Sure.
So the stuff that's currently in the works, you talked about, like, there's pieces in the site investigation, parallel pathing, design and development phase, stormwater management analysis. Those are all aspects that need to be completed before you even apply for or send in an application for the Maplewood Planning Board?
No, thank you for asking that. I'm going to
Yeah,
give you a little
okay.
bit more clarity
Thank
there.
you.
No, essentially, those things happen concurrently, right? So the soil sampling and laboratory analysis, the stormwater subsurface investigation, and its implications on stormwater management are all under analysis right now. That's involved in the boring of the holes into the ground and then the sending of those site samples out to the labs. And then they come back with insights based on their findings as to what the implications are on the potential drainage structure, right? And so in this design development phase, as they get that information in, they finalize the projected setup for the drainage, right? The capacities involved in the drainage as well. So that's happening now. In fact, November 17th is when the DOE project application was submitted to the DOE. That's already been submitted. But essentially, how they're linked is that as that information comes back to us around soil sampling and stormwater subsurface management and just the general stormwater management and its implications on the draining system, as that stuff comes back in, once it's finalized, then we're able to submit all of that data to the Maplewood Planning Board review. And so when that's done in January, the results of that come in. And then once that's completed, even though, the DOE may be wherever they are in their project application, once the Maplewood Planning Board's decision comes back, then the DOE can render its finalized answer to our project application. So while those ongoing analyses around soil and stormwater are still happening, they're not holding up any process. The DOE already has our application. They may come to a thought around it or a general consensus around it, and then as the data comes back in, and then Maplewood Planning Board can actually, receive the results of that analysis, then they render their opinion, and then the DOE renders their opinion.
Okay, sorry. I think I used the wrong word when talking about the Maplewood Planning Board when I said application. And
Yeah.
that's probably why you kind of circled back to that.
Mhm.
So I just want to ensure, I know it sounds like Todd at Zwiesel is kind of handling all of that, and just want to make sure that the district, FFT, like there's oversight to it, that they're hitting the deadlines. I think at
Oh,
this point, I know
absolutely,
you've
yeah.
always been very upfront that December was unlikely.
Mhm.
And right now you don't see any potential obstacles to January, but
Correct.
anything we can do to ensure that we hit that date, that Todd, whatever he needs to do to make sure all of that is submitted in a timely fashion so that we can get on the agenda for January.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's well understood. And in fact, we are in constant communication around progress. I mean, as you know, our architect is present not only for our Ritzer project timeline conversations. He's there and present in our construction meetings on Mondays, Wednesdays throughout the week. We're talking all the time. And in fact, he's aware of the board's, focused oversight of the project timeline here. And so as such, that's why he's assured me that one, the DOE application's been sent in, and it's important that we accurately convey the kind of interdependencies there. But The analysis is underway, and once all of that is done in the projected next week or so, that'll go to Maplewood Planning Board for review in January. Once their decision comes back, or their opinion on it comes back, the DOE then finalizes their application. So we will be giving interim updates as this analysis comes in, and as we move towards the target.
Got it. And then can you just remind both the public and actually myself, Maplewood Planning Board has 90 days to review?
I believe it's 60, but I can.
60 or 90? Okay.
I believe it's 60, but
Okay.
I can
Yeah,
check that.
confirm.
I'm pretty
Thank
sure
you.
it's 60.
Appreciate it.
So based upon the timing that Regina just mentioned of the 60 days, is there any chance for a December planning board? If the
No.
samples are coming in, it's just.
No, there's
no
not
way.
at this point, because essentially that meeting is on December 9th. Here we are on the 20th of November. So they need to get all of the analysis finalized in a full package within some time frame prior to the meeting. So not possible to make the December meeting because we're still awaiting information back from our partners that are doing the analysis, right? So essentially, we always knew that this would be the case. It's not a slipping of any timeline. We had a thought that we would try for the December meeting if the analysis could come back in a timely enough fashion. But the January meeting is definitely always what we've been pinpointing. And in fact, it turns out that early analysis, we were correct. All these things need to be completed prior, and then they'll go to Maplewood Planning Board in January. That said, did not hold up our DOE application, which was in fact submitted. So.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah, I think it sounds like even if we got all of that stuff in and it was past December 9th, but it was December 15th, they still have to, I've heard that the planning board can accommodate additional meetings if requested, but they still need 60 days to review it. So the chance that
Yep.
maybe they would get that done is low. Yes. You have a comment?
Okay, so I just want to make sure I understand.
Sure.
So the expectation is that by the second week of December, we will have all the documentation ready to submit to the planning board so that we can get on the agenda.
Exactly.
That is what we are expecting, and we
Mhm.
should receive that by the second week. Okay, will you let the board know if that doesn't happen?
I'll be letting you know about every individual element of the
Okay,
process.
thank you.
And rest assured that that will be the case.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And then just following up Jeff's transportation comment, since I'm not in FFT especially, when do you think we will be able to see some cost information regarding transportation? Because I know this is something that you've been working on for a while. So when do you think you would have some analysis for the
Sure.
board to
Well,
look at?
we've been providing data as it's been made available via FFT at each juncture. At each FFT meeting, we are providing our perspective data as to where our current circumstance is. Now, as I mentioned, in our process of evaluating both how to optimize in the moment and then how to refine our projections for costs and then how to implement strategies for the coming year, that's a lot of different data sets. So we actually bring those data sets to bear at the meeting, but there are always continuing questions so that remain after the meeting or different ways of looking at projecting. So it's not that no data has been presented. We've been presenting them in the forums that we have for their presentation, Finance, Facilities and Technology meeting. It's just that there's always continuing ways of slicing and dicing and looking at the data. There's also changing circumstances. I mean, if we're doing a projection for likely transportation spend through June 30, 26, that depends on new and different route costs that we then go out and collect and bring back and then provide updates to. So the data is fluid and the data has been presented and will continue to be as we refine our analysis.
Okay, so I guess maybe I'm asking if when there's data presented in FFT, if the rest of the board can get a copy of that data?
Yeah, I think that's what you've identified there is a circumstance that we do have to refine amongst how our board talks to each other, because we have our committee structure, and that's the forum within which we bring information to bear based on our current situation or what we're looking for. So, but there are always continuing questions, and there's always Sometimes there's a telephone game that happens after FFT where folks are sort of representing what took place there, and there is not a shared understanding of what took place. So, I'm happy to workshop with the board ways in which the chair of the finance committee and the board members that are on the finance committee can share information amongst other board members. Absolutely.
I guess I'm just thinking, like, if you're sharing a slide or a presentation, could it
Mhm.
just not be emailed then to the board after the meeting so we could all see it?
That would be one way, sure.
Okay.
I think that should be workshopped with the chair of the finance committee.
I think we're also shooting, Deirdre, for a larger presentation once we have all the data collected, probably for the next couple months. Right now, we're waiting on ALVs, we're waiting on Stonefield, which also ties into the hub system we were talking about. So I know we have a meeting with Stonefield next week. Our last conversation with that firm was that he should be completed by mid-December, because we're really having him meet with both towns as well. We're trying to make sure everybody's involved this time around. And then the ALVs, we just had a small, short meeting with them today. They expect to send a large amount of data over the next 2 weeks to us. Again, today's conversation was discrepancy between data we found versus data they had. And that really seems to be the trend. That's why we want to make sure we're doing the research correctly and presenting all this data at one sitting instead of piecemealing it around, and making sure it's right. We're constantly finding, and you know that because we've had this discussion, that our data platform systems aren't the most true, shall we say.
And just, sorry, one point of clarification. And what is Stonewall?
Oh, Stonefield.
Stonefield?
Hazardous routes.
Hazardous route study.
Yeah, they're the company that did our last one 3 years ago, and
just piggybacking on your point, Deirdre, about getting information around to the board, I think it actually would be really helpful for artifacts like that when we have them in committee. We've had a tradition of Friday packets from time to time in the past. I think bringing those into one thing, we're making sure that the entire board is getting whatever is in committee that week. It was coming out of reports from SLT. Makes a lot of sense.
Thanks for bringing that up. Yes, we know it's some work, but it is nice to get the Friday packets. Okay, can I say my president update so then we can move on? Yeah? Okay, so I'll say the president update and then we will get to committee reports. Okay, moving right along here. All right, so this month the board held its last retreat in 2025, which was yesterday. Feels like we never left. We had a 1-hour preview of what teachers experienced during SEED training, which stands for Seeking Educational Equity and Diversity. Thank you again, Marcia Hicks and Kate Facto, for leading us in such a wonderful experience. Following that, we reviewed our board manual, as a goal is to annually review and update it as needed. Thank you to the oncoming Board of Education members, Malini, Paul, and Meredith, for observing our session and sending some board manual ideas in advance. Please hold your calendars for 3 feedback sessions in 2026 for our 5-year strategic plan, which will be held at Columbia High School, Columbia High School's Media Center at 6:30 p.m., Thursday, January 15th, Thursday, February 12th, and Monday, March 16th, led by our NJSBA rep. Afterwards, NJSBA produces a recap for the superintendent with 3 to 4 overarching goals that will be interpreted into action plans for each with his senior leadership team. The board is not involved with creating the plan, but of course, the superintendent may ask the board for feedback. Once finalized, the board votes to formally approve the strategic plan with the understanding that budgets may preclude certain goals from happening or goals might change. The district will be administering an RSVP link for community members to respond to in the coming weeks. Thank you to our superintendent and Board of Ed members who attended the recent Community Coalition on Race Integration event on Wednesday, November 12th. The program reviewed the history of integration in our school district, as well as featured a panel of experts who discussed the importance of integration sustainability, attention to curriculum, and academic achievement. I'm happy to hear that experts echoed what our superintendent and fellow Board of Ed members have been saying for some time. Ongoing evaluation and adjustments of your integration initiative are necessary to ensure sustainability. I also appreciate that Montclair's Controlled Choice Integration Program was lauded by guest speaker J.C. Goodman. I referenced Montclair in my October President's Update as an example of a district that reviews and adjusts its placement algorithm annually. As a reminder, next Tuesday, November 25th at 6:30 PM, there will be a virtual town hall on school topics led by our superintendent. And we invite you to join and learn more about the district's ongoing integration work and other key topics. There will also be a budget advisory committee meeting on Monday, November 24th. I'm assuming the same time, 6:30. So details are on the website that you can find. Lastly, I want to discuss our district budget and transportation. Many surrounding districts are facing a budget crisis, and we are no exception. We as a board have continued to support the district's efforts to ensure student services and classroom experiences are protected as much as possible. Since the spring, the board and district have been carefully evaluating pre-K busing. It isn't part of our integration plan, and rising costs have made it important for us to reassess. Looking ahead, pre-K courtesy busing below the state mandated 2-mile mark may, I say may, be removed beginning in the 26-27 school year as part of a broader revised transportation plan. We are still awaiting more data, but we know most pre-K students are assigned to their closest school, and currently pre-K buses have fewer riders than K-12 buses, making it a more expensive service. Whereas we are excited for our satellite pre-K locations to expand, transporting these additional students year over year will be financially crippling. A heads up to parents of incoming pre-K students, there is a strong chance the district will be changing pre-K courtesy busing for 26-27 school year. More broadly, our budget deficit means that changes to K through 12 transportation may also be required for the 26-27 school year. With that in mind, I want to reiterate the importance of maintaining courtesy transportation with an integration program, especially at the 1.25-mile mark with the current III algorithm, since it still produces isolated placements and disproportionately sends our Black students on the longest, farthest bus routes. And now I'll read our board president's statement. The school board meeting is a business meeting in public and not a meeting with the public. Oftentimes, it may appear to members of our audience that the Board of Education takes action with very little comment, and in many cases, a unanimous vote. Before a matter is placed on the agenda at a public meeting, it has thoroughly been reviewed by the administration, the superintendent of schools, and the Board of Education, after which it is placed on the agenda for board discussion and action at a public meeting. We will now hear from the chairs of our committees with a few brief highlights from this month's meeting. Please try to keep it brief. And we'll start on this side. CNI, please.
Okay, the CNI committee met on November 3rd with all members present. We discussed district goals related to CNI, as Mr. Bing also referenced. Progress is being made towards both goals, with MTSS teams having been formed at schools, universal screeners having been administered, and we heard about the efforts being made to lower the chronic absenteeism rate at CHS. There are no CNI, we didn't discuss any CNI related policies, but tonight we are voting on Financial Resolution 4881H. This is a revised agreement with Proximity Learning, an online platform that provides students with live instruction when a certified teacher in a certain area is not available. Examples of this include situations where a student with a gifted action plan needs instruction. We do not currently have certified staff to deliver, or when a teacher is on leave and no qualified leave replacement is available. So while district's preference is always to have an in-person teacher, Proximity serves as an alternative when no other staffing options exist. In addition, we discussed several other topics, and one highlight is the elementary dual language program. The planning committee held its first meeting and identified Spanish as the language for the potential pilot. The team will conduct site visits to districts with established programs, and early discussions point to a possible small pilot beginning at Seth Boyden, though this is still in the very early exploration stage. The initiative aligns with the state seal of biliteracy and the district's growing multilingual student population. SLT will share a timeline and one-pager with the board around this next month. Our next meeting will be on December 1st, and of course, the website has a full recap. Oh, Achieve, sure. Were there any questions about CNI?
Not a question, but just for your next meeting, can we talk about the grading floor that was brought during public speaks? Thank you.
So I attended the Achieve Board of Trustees meeting this week, and Achieve continues to provide strong support across our schools. Teacher grant applications for the Prince Educator Grant open next week, and planning is already underway for Maker Madness 2026. Achieve is also reviewing nominations for the Pollock Arts Initiative. Tutoring programs remain a major area of impact. Both parents and students report positive experiences, and the tutor bank continues to grow with an ongoing need for additional tutors. So if anyone listening happens to want a tutor, reach out to Achieve. In terms of other recent engagement with the district, Achieve hosted the Our Towns Reading, which raised over $26,000 towards programming for our schools, and partnered with President's Council to provide $100 gift cards to families for the Thanksgiving drive, and they'll continue to support families as needed throughout the year.
All right, Special Services Committee met on October 14th or November 14th from 6:30 till 8:30. All members were in attendance, and we were joined by the CPAC President, Nicole Josie, where we discussed some topics of interest to them, including communication, ensuring that the 48-hour response time is met, and utilizing the chain of command when it's not. We addressed some buses that were still arriving late consistently at that point, and also some updates needed to the website. Next, we reviewed district goal number 3, which is on special services. The first discussion that we had was around ICRS and creating an instructional rubric. We reviewed the current rubric that is in development and discussed how to embed clear look-fors that might capture whether accommodations and modifications are being implemented, which is an area of concern for some families, as Ms. Jessamaria highlighted this evening in her presentation. She also spoke about how there's an attempt to align it with frameworks that already exist, but the purpose is separate and apart from those. Really, the purpose of this is to strengthen our ICRS classrooms, and noted that they will share an early draft with SOMEA. The second piece that we spoke through was the establishment of biweekly CNI and special services planning, which is already happening. They talked about their plan to create walkthroughs, a cadence of walkthroughs. Superintendent Bing also described the parallel instructional rounds that they will be doing this winter, where schools will be focusing on 2 to 3 priority practices that support closing the achievement gap, and those findings will be shared with school leadership and ultimately the board to look at trend level review. Lastly, we talked about the EBR scope and sequence, which was already discussed tonight. The broad overview is that the goal is to create more consistency across our schools by looking at entrance and exit criteria. And our discussion also focused on ensuring clear communication as adjustments are made, because this is a strong in-district program. We also reviewed our board goal 1 on budget. As part of this goal, the Special Services Committee is going to monitor both paraprofessional spending and begin drilling down on our legal spend as well. In addition to the budget, I do want to clarify that insofar as paraprofessionals are concerned, that we also remain focused on the processes that govern paraprofessional assignment, fading, and ongoing oversight and review of those relevant aspects of this really critical support service. We reviewed personnel, starting with vacancies specific to special services, but I will defer to Board Member Eckert's overview from the Personnel Committee. And our next meeting is scheduled for December 11th. A full recap is on the website, and I am available for any questions. Thank you.
Yep. All right. Well, this will be quick since Mr. Bing brought it up in his superintendent's speech. But the municipal partners meeting was replaced by the Community Sports Initiative. We met on a weekly basis as we shifted our attention to providing immediate assistance to those experiencing the food insecurity after the SNAP funding lapsed. So for sake of redundancy, the community did get involved pretty heavily with a lot of energy. And I wanted to give a shout out to Dr. Carrie Weibel, who's not here anymore, but hopefully she hears this, in terms of her energy, her support, and her all her efforts throughout those last couple of days, in November 6th and November 7th. A lot of food was raised by the families on multiple instances from calls to action, and over $7,000 in gift cards were handed out to families last week. Social workers were continuing the distribution, And I'm also happy to hear that Mr. Bing is going to be continuing the initiative through the children's cabinet meetings on an ongoing basis, since just because the SNAP funding might come back, it's not going to come back to what it was, nor, in years past. And insecurity is not just everything that happens every now and then. It is an all-year effort that needs our attention. If we have the ability to help, we should.
Okay, I'm going to do double duty here. I'll first cover my committee. The Policy and Governance Committee met on November 5th. We have on our agenda a number of items that are up for second read, as well as items up for first read. Up for second read, we are abolishing policy 1648.15, which is healthcare record keeping related to COVID-19, which is no longer recommended, as we are past that point. We're also we're approving policy 143, board member election and appointment, policy 173, duties of public school accountant, policy 177, professional services, policy 1570, internal controls, policy 1620, administrative employment contracts, regulation 1510, Americans with Disabilities Act, and regulation 1570, internal controls. These are all policies that had incremental updates pursuant to the recommendations from our vendor, Strauss Esme, and have been put through after review from the various committees and SLT, and have been approved last month on first read. Also approved last month on first read, but coming back for another first read is policy 0174 on legal services. Unfortunately, we seem to have voted on a draft that did not have everything we needed, so we have it right this time. Also up for first read tonight is 163601, notification of promotion, new job and transfer opportunities, policy 5339.01, student son protection, and regulation 9320, cooperation with law enforcement agencies. All of these, again, went through the committee process, and they're all implementing recommendations from our vendor, Strauss Esme. We also discussed a number of other policies in committee. I'll highlight just a few of them. We did discuss policy 8600 on transportation. There's been an ongoing discussion about whether we're going to put forward a new version of 8600 that commemorated the specific mileage markers that had been in place for the past few years of 1.25 for pre-K through fifth grade. Also a discussion of whether or not we want to maintain that for some or all students, whether it was pre-K students and above. We recommended that go to FFT for a discussion, and I'll address that in a moment in the FFT agenda minutes. We also addressed policy 2312 on class size. This is one that's going to go to C&I for review. The discussion is whether, in order to accommodate having a number of sections that most efficiently uses our staff time, we would be willing to increase our class sizes by up to 2 students in elementary school, which is a tough decision. And so that is going to be at the next C&I meeting, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot more discussion about it. And then finally, policy 5120, assignment of students. We're looking at this for a small change. Previously, we've had a requirement for 2 experience surveys regarding the III plan. And we've had very low respondent results because we think there's some survey overload, so survey fatigue. So we're proposing reducing that to just 1 survey during the year, with the understanding that we are also conducting the New Jersey School Climate Improvement Survey, which hits a lot of the same pieces. So we'll get usable data 2 times of the year. And our next meeting is on December 3rd. Any questions? Okay, moving along to FFT, my colleague, Chair Bill Gifford, is not here, but he gave me some notes for a readout. The FFT committee met on November 12th. And among the items that were discussed, we've discussed the facilities and construction updates. First, the submission of the long-range facilities plan and Ritzer Field, which was very ably covered earlier in the meeting with Mr. Moody. We also discussed an issue, Seth Boyden. There's been a drainage issue that we commissioned a study for. The study came back and suggested there's a pretty substantial amount of work that will be required. And so a discussion is underway as far as how we will actually address fixing that and where we're going to find the money to fund it. So that review is underway. We had extensive conversation regarding transportation, both in the macro and the micro. Looking at our future plans, a question again about courtesy busing. So we brought up policy 8600 thrown over to us from the policy committee. And we've looked at how much courtesy busing is costing us on an annual basis. And the question of, is this a thing that we ought to be providing at all? Any busing beyond the statutory 2 mile or 2.5 mile for high school limit? And if we are providing it, should we be providing it for all elementary and pre-K as we do right now, eliminate pre-K and just have elementary, or some other piece? We're looking at numbers. Some numbers were presented at FFT. There are more that we expect to receive, and that conversation is ongoing. Along with that is our hazardous transportation, which is required under our policy and to a degree under state law if we're providing courtesy busing. We do have the new study underway to identify hazardous routes and understanding to what degree transportation is required for those versus expecting the town to fix the hazard, et cetera. With regard to pre-K busing, there's a discussion from a survey of some districts in our region that do not provide pre-K transportation or are doing so only in certain categories. All of this discussion, of course, excludes students who have special education transportation that's required, but in looking at how we compare with neighboring districts. A comprehensive transportation plan is being planned for the next school year. We expect that after we have additional data in the next couple of months regarding our financial health and our transportation usage and projections, we'll have a better idea of where to go forward. With regard to our current challenges with buses, we identified that some of our past data and reporting on transportation may not have been fully accurate. And so finding the most accurate data to compare current versus priors to, and looking right now at difficulties of why some routes are starting later than expected, how to accommodate the tiers from one route to another. We did not have someone from transportation at that meeting, but I will just interject that in our executive committee, earlier this week, we had the tremendous chance to sit down with Transportation Coordinator Sandra Klemser, who anyone who's had a busing issue has surely been emailing with, and who gave us some hyper detailed info on what the district is doing right now, including the tremendous coordination that she now has with individual bus drivers and bus companies, the discussion with parents, and how that's being brought back up the chain and routes are being revised and refined based on what the driver is seeing, what parents are seeing. With regard to budget and financial strategy, looking at our 25-26 outlook, we're seeing some areas where we are seeing savings over the budgeted amounts, whereas we see other areas where we have a shortfall, where we are spending over what has been expected. And so looking at how much of a surplus we might be able to have from this year to contribute to next year's outlook, which we do currently have a gap that we need to fill before, in our budget, and discussing some of the hard choices that we may have to make and cost controls that we have in place right now to facilitate some of that surplus to go into next year. And so that was most of it. Check the minutes for the rest. Any questions? Yeah, I asked the superintendent.
Sorry, just to reconfirm, because I don't know if Mr. Moody had mentioned it, the district is currently on a budget freeze, correct? Yeah.
Happy to speak to that. Essentially, what's involved in the budget freeze is that we elected a time frame to mobilize the full community to make their requisitions and purchase orders consistent with their budgets. Right. And it was work that as a follow-on work from bringing them further into the budget process. Right. And, having them feel it more. So what we're hoping there is that with a freeze to the budget or a target date for completion of all requisitions and purchase orders, that, to the extent that there may be unexpended or unencumbered funds, we can evaluate how to redistribute that around the district. So we're a part of the process right now where district has slowed almost to a stop, but they're attempting, meaning departments across the district and school building level purchases have slowed almost to a stop. There's some trickling in as well, but essentially with that part of the process, we can then evaluate where we can redistribute and where we can increase perhaps savings from budgeted lines, like Board Member Meyer was talking about in the FFT recap, such that we can actually apply those surpluses to the next year, the budget gap that we need to fill for the 26-27 budget year. So yes, in fact, but there's still some essential spending that is happening or being requisitioned that just could not be completed prior to the deadline. But yes, that's helping us to refine our projection for year-end 26 spend, as well as our efforts to evaluate opportunities to close that 26-27 projected budget gap that we have.
Thank you for explaining that. I think it's important for the
Sure.
community to hear as well.
Absolutely.
Okay. Move on to personnel. Moving right along.
All right. Personnel Committee met on Monday, October 25th at, November. It's what happens when you copy over your, what is today? November 17th. It is not October. The full committee was in attendance, and as usual, a large chunk of the meeting was discussion around confidential personnel matters. Just a couple things I want to highlight. Mr. Adedoyan walked the committee through updates on the personnel-related district goal, KPI 1.1, that establishes baseline data for key employee metrics, including staff satisfaction, overall hiring and departure rates, reasons for voluntary turnover. As Mr. Bing mentioned in his update, the committee reviewed an executive summary that will be shared publicly on the website in the next week or two. So I'm not going to dive into that necessarily, but we did end up spending a little bit of time talking about the attrition data that we saw. It was pretty high. I think it was about 60-ish%. And so I know that some of the data that we're looking at just needs to be disaggregated a bit more, by teacher type, by school, so that they can identify a bit more of those trends. And that's it regarding the goals. They're going to be next focusing on 2.1, which focuses on the exit interview process and kind of increasing the participation rate, which of course will feed into the baseline data that they just provided. Just a quick shout out to Mr. Adedoyan, Mr. Draper, for getting information regarding the new employee health insurance plan up on the site. It's got a bunch of videos, FAQ section, important dates, including the office hours, staff sessions that you mentioned. And this can all be found under the HR section of the website. The next committee meeting will be Tuesday, December 9th, 6:30 p.m. Any questions, comments? Okay, thank you.
All right. The Rutgers Implementation Committee met on November 10th. All committee members were in attendance. Among the issues discussed in committee were the following: the III transfer requests. So there has been minimal movement of transfers so far. The district does expect to complete any requests they can by the end of the week, which at that time was November 15th, and then they will provide updated data to the full board. Capacity is did I do the date wrong? Oh, I don't know. Oh, sorry. I thought you were saying that. Okay. Capacity is a major factor, especially for students who are requesting to transfer with IEPs, as state regulation allows only up to 10 special education students per classroom. The district clarified from, I think, prior Rutgers notes, the district did want to clarify that they never paused looking at priority 1 transfer requests. The only delay that can occur is if a building is completely at capacity, but to date, all priority 1 transfers have been completed. It was also discussed that parents might need a little more guidance on the type of information to provide to request a hardship transfer. The district could consider designing a request transfer form to include options for parents to select, such as house fire, loss of job, transportation, illness, death, et cetera, that aligns with our policy, and then also includes space for providing detailed written explanation and supporting documentation. And the district said they would take that into account. Another topic discussed was the continued evaluation of the III. The district has held meetings with ALVS on October 15th and October 30th, and I guess just recently as well. And one of the things that they provided to the full board was a memo outlining a potential plan. ALVS is currently conducting further beta testing on the 2-zone 3-school model, which again, that 2-zone model is Zone A would be Seth Boyden, Tuscan, and Delia Bolden, feeding into MMS, and then Zone B would be Clinton, Marshall, and South Mountain, feeding into SOMS. As it does its work, the district will need to consider special education and multilingual programming across zones. Simultaneously, the district stated that the Special Services Department is currently reviewing and creating a plan for services that the district should bring in-house. The district needs to expand its in-house services and continue its emphasis on multi-tiered system of support to better support students' needs. Currently, there are 21% of students receive special education services, and that's projected to grow to 25%. Other considerations, if we move to 2-zone model, include interzone moves. So if one family moves from one part of town to another, what would be allowed in that situation? And also, how would sibling priority for the current III model, how would that feed into any new model? It was stated that implementation of a 2-zone model may be targeted for the 27-28 school year, but that is yet to be finalized. And there was just questions in the committee about the district weighting and what it would do next year, given the transportation problems that still exist for families mentioned in public speaks, the 6:55 a.m. pickups, late arrivals to school, long bus rides, and the fact that if we remain in the status quo, there'll be 100 plus more students to bus next year. The district stated that the current cost of III transportation and ridership data is being compiled, as Mr. Moody mentioned earlier, and the district is also exploring the hub model and subscription busing options. The district also stated that the goal this year was a maximum bus ride of 45 minutes. Last year, it was 30 minutes, and so obviously there is no room to increase ridership time next year. That's just not going to be an option. We also discussed other potential programming related to integration, which board member Sake Gable mentioned as well. One of those is the lottery-based dual language program at Seth Boyden. Members of central office were going to a district to look at their dual language program, which is a model in the state, and then there were 2 others that were going to visit. The district is also working to provide projected data on multilingual learners to understand what our programming space needs are going to be in the future for those students as well. The committee also discussed edits to policy 5120, assignment of students, which is up for first read tonight. The edits, as board member Meyer stated, are around the frequency of the III survey and stem from requests made by the district to adjust its frequency. And lastly, the committee discussed suspension data, which is on the district website. It shows that suspension disproportionately impacts students of color and special education students. Certain schools made up large proportions of suspensions in the past 3 years, so the district is going to hire Dr. Fergus to work with principals in those schools. It was also suggested that the district tracked more information over time, especially students over time, to see if maybe there's repeat offenders or we need to support them more. And then there was also conversation around the differences between the middle schools, given they're both integrated, and the district will be continuing to assess that area. Our next committee meeting is on December 8th, and of course, more details on our conversation are on the committee website. Any questions?
Yes, I have a comment.
Yep, go ahead, Jeff.
Since our III launched, it's been sometimes called a quote modified Berkeley plan. But if you've actually looked at how Berkeley operates, like calling our plan quote modified Berkeley doesn't make a lot of sense. But if we did adopt a 2 sets of 3 program, it actually would be like Berkeley in a significant way, since Berkeley does divide itself into 3 zones that have 3 or 4 schools. I guess it's part of their way of making sure that transportation works. I've heard that actually, like, almost no one in Berkeley has a ride of over half an hour, which is one reason why Berkeley's integration plan is like so well accepted and so stable. And, whereas we're kind of struggling.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, and look, I just, when Deirdre mentioned that they're looking at different models for implementation in the 27 school year, I just want to urge the district that whatever we can look at from a budgetary perspective, that we look for anything that we can do in the next year's school, like as soon as possible, right? Obviously not this year, but for next year, only because when we know that there are costs and efficiencies that we can make and savings as it relates to busing, transportation, logistics, staffing, time lost and learning from the students being late on the buses. Any recognition of savings that we can do on those sides will prevent any excessive cuts that we have to do in the short term that we can't get back, like on staffing or teacher cuts. So while we look at 27, I appreciate it. I really wish we can, I want to look at 26 and 27 as well.
Yeah, that it was part of our discussion during the committee, and I will reiterate that. I think what we're doing right now it doesn't seem sustainable from a transportation point of view. I mean, I know the district just had to add another bus route, which is going to be more money to help address some of what was brought up in Public Speaks today. And also just the amount of resources that are being used by the administration to manage this program, and that any costs we spend on it are costs that are being taken out of the classroom. So I really would hope that we can, move towards a 2-zone, 3-school model. It seems like, we're going to get more data, but it seems like the preliminary data shows that it very much does balance the schools the way that we want to as part of an integration plan, but it also clearly makes transportation much more manageable because just simply the distance is less. So I hope that we can kind of prioritize that as we are looking at everything. Will, in your great recap, looking at all things that we need to look at to balance our deficit. And I hope that this is one of them for next year.
So I
Can I
should have
say-
mentioned this. Oh, sorry, Jeff, just one sec. I should have mentioned this earlier, but I just had a brain freeze. I just wanted to comment. Thank you, Will, for mentioning that we spoke with Sandra, and that recap is coming. I just didn't get a chance to finalize it and show it to everyone beforehand. So not all members have seen that information yet. So I just want you to know it is coming. Apologies for the delay. It's hard when our EC meeting is the week of a board meeting because, there's a lot of reading and review to do. Jeff, did you want to say something? Go on ahead.
Yes, 2 things. Regarding saving money and transportation, we can see already that the costs of pre-K busing are very expensive in per student terms. Like it's over $4,000 per student, which is more than twice as what K-5 busing costs. So, it's over $1 million. It's come out too. So, there is potential for very large savings there. But FFT didn't just talk about like ways to save money. Like, we have talked off and on about asking the BOSE for additional OpEx money. It's a little bit like legally obscure, like how a district can ask for additional OpEx money. But, I have seen examples of like teachers of districts doing this actually for things that are very strictly related to a thorough and efficient education. So there's some ambiguity about like where the law precisely is, but anyway, it is something that's come up too, like, asking for more revenue. So like, I hope that I don't know if we're going to be able to completely resolve our budget deficit in a way that's painless, but I hope that it can involve like finding like the least bad cuts to make, but also asking for a small amount of additional OpEx money above the 2% that were automatically granted.
Thank you, Jeff. Anything else before we move on to action portion? And then we do have someone on virtual or online public speaks, just giving you guys a preview of what's to come. Oh, yes, Regina?
Just real quick, I'm on the Rutgers committee, but I just wanted to, and I know I kind of stated it there, but just kind of want to reiterate, like, as we keep talking about our budget and transportation, and just a reminder, like our budget reflects our priorities. And so, there's just a lot of discussion around the upcoming budget work, centering teaching and learning, not legacy structures. It is really unfortunate what is happening in our neighboring districts. I follow very closely what's happening in Montclair, and it's really devastating what happened with West Orange last year. And so as the committees continue to have those conversations, I just want to ensure that, as we all have stated, we want to really save as much as we can in the classroom. And, hopefully that we can, while we all may have different opinions on how the integration plan moves forward and potentially modifies, I hope that we can just come to that conclusion that that is what is the most important, what is happening in our classrooms. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we will move to the action portion of the meeting. Are there any subbers? Will, did you have anything you want to share of additional items?
It's not, there's not a ton on right now, but I want
Yeah,
to
it's a
call.
late agenda.
I wanted to call out, though, Resolution 4881J. We are accepting a donation from the South Mountain PTA for a total of $34.82 These funds were raised by the 24-25 Student Council and organized by phys ed teacher Jeff K. Schaefer, and will be used for tetherball. So get ready, South Mountain. And thank you to the Student Council and the PTA.
The kids are going to love that. Great. Okay, so Mr. Moody, can you please read the resolution record?
Thank you for those highlights, Board Member Meyer. We will be looking to take action via vote here on resolutions 4878 through 4857. 4887, sorry. That is all.
Open to discussion. Does anyone have anything else? All right, let's get to it.
All right, so I'll start with the roll call vote. I'll start with Board Member Bennett.
Yes.
Board Member Brown.
Yes.
Board Member Callahan.
Yes.
Board President Duval Wilson.
Yes.
Board Member Eckert.
Yes.
Board Member Gifford. Board Member Kapadia.
Yes.
Board Member Meyer.
Yes.
Board Member Sackett Gable.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, great. And so that concludes the action portion of the meeting. We will go to public speaks. I don't think there's anything up there because you already brought the, yeah, so we're just going to go. I read this already. I'm not going to read it again, but please remember to say your name and town when you get on the mic. We have one public speaks online, Rhonda Hobson.
Hello, hi everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thanks.
Okay, perfect. Hello, so my name is Rhonda Hobson, and I am a proud Maplewood resident. I've lived in Maplewood for many years, raising two daughters, 11 years apart. My oldest attended Tuscan, Maplewood Middle, and Columbia High School. My youngest has been a part of the III program. She went to Marshall, then Bolden, and now attends Psalms with hopes of continuing on to Columbia. I am here tonight because I feel my family's experience is underrepresented in conversations about III. We live on Boyden Avenue near Irvington Avenue, which is a hazardous route. Yet, according to the district's evaluation, it is not considered hazardous because of the municipal boundary, with the reasoning that no school children live there. But my daughter is one of those children, and she must travel that unsafe route every day when going to school. During elementary school, we lost our bus service and had to adjust to traveling nearly 2 miles one way. So I was relieved when middle school was approaching because there had always been a bus that stopped right in front of my home to go to MMS. As time passed, that bus no longer stops there. And my daughter was instead assigned to attend SOMS. So this eliminated the possibility of carpooling with nearby families, leaving us isolated from our community's transportation options. In 6th and 7th grade, we managed, despite my emails going unanswered, even after I joined transportation town halls and things like that. So now in 8th grade, I can no longer drive my daughter to and from school. Walking is extremely dangerous with no cross street. Our only option has been New Jersey Transit. I contacted New Jersey Transit directly and was told multiple times that student bus discounts exist for elementary, middle, and high school students. Yet when I raised this with the Board of Education back in August, I was met with pushback, incorrect information, and dismissive responses. To this day, I have not received a clear answer on how my daughter can obtain a student transit ID to access, the discount to ride the bus. This situation is frustrating and disappointing. My daughter's assignment to SOMS has separated us from our community carpooling options and forced us to incur additional costs, all while navigating a route deemed dangerous. So families like mine deserve to be represented in these discussions. Triple I is not a one-size-fits-all program. Every family, every neighborhood has unique needs. I have reached out to both past and current superintendents, to transportation staff, and completed surveys, yet my concerns remain unheard. I share my story today to remind us that inclusion and equity require listening to all families. No one's feedback or challenges should be minimized when shaping solutions for our district. Thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda. Appreciate your story. That concludes public speaks. And now I go on to our favorite part of the meeting, which is new business. Anyone? Anyone? No. Okay. So I will announce our future meetings and adjourn. The Board of Education will meet again on December 18th, right? Yes. 2025 at 6:30 p.m. in public session for our regular meeting. Action will be taken. Mr. Moody, I would now like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting on Thursday, November 20th at 10:10. That's luck. 10:10 p.m. May I have a second? Thank you, Board Member. What's your last name? Brown. All in favor? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.